Ngozi currently serves as the Group Executive Chief Marketing and Communications Officer at Coronation Group, Africa's investment management powerhouse. Before Coronation Group, Ngozi played a pivotal role in the turnaround story of Union Bank after a decade of decline. As head of strategic brand management and a key member of the bank's transformative management office, she led groundbreaking initiatives and multiple award-winning campaigns, such as Enabling Success, which was Nigeria's most watched advert on YouTube in 2018, now with over 3.8 million views. Beyond the boardroom, Ngozi is passionate about mentorship and leadership development. In 2024, she served as Dean of the Young Creative Leaders Program, which is a platform dedicated to empowering the next generation of marketing and communications leaders. Ladies and gentlemen, the Platform Africa, please join me as I welcome to the podium today, Mrs. Ngozi Akinyele. Please keep clapping until she gets to the podium.
Yet. I feel like it's on now. Fantastic. Thank you, 𝐓𝐿, for that very kind introduction. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, our fellow distinguished speakers. It feels great to say that. So my daughter Atakinda came back from boarding school for the Easter holidays, and she said, "Mommy, why are you preparing so hard for this edition of the platform? You anchor and you have been anchoring for as long as I can remember." And she turns 14 on Saturday, actually. And so I said, "I'm not anchoring this time, I'm speaking." And she went, "Oh, so what are you going to say?" I don't blame her. 2 minutes to 15 to 30 minutes actually is a big leap, right? 2 minutes is about the time it took 𝐓𝐿 to bring me up. And 30 minutes is what Pastor Poju, the convener of the platform, has entrusted to me this morning. I'm deeply honored, sincerely grateful, and I intend to make the most of it. So let's dive right in. For those of us who have been following the platform promos, you would notice that, like 𝐓𝐿 said, this is just a platform for entrepreneurs. And I love the simplicity of that because it gives each speaker the opportunity to address the topic based on our unique convictions and experiences. And so I've given myself the liberty to call my intervention this morning, if the clicker will work, I've given myself the liberty to wait until it works, and now that it works, to announce to you my topic, which is the heart of entrepreneurship, sponge, not stone. So this is me, Ngozi Akinyele, who has been anchoring the platform for over 10 years. Ngozi Akinyele, with the honor of interviewing the Vice President of Nigeria at this time. Ngozi Akinyele, in a photograph, in a partnership with the Federal Minister of Arts and Culture and Creative Economy. Ngozi Akinyele, hosting the Coordinating Minister of the Economy and Minister of Finance. Ngozi Akinyele, again, being hosted by the U.S. Consular here in Lagos. Ngozi Akinyele, in a partnership led by Coronation with the British Deputy High Commissioner and the CEO of the King's Trust Foundation International. Ngozi partnering with Lagos, which is the 5th largest economy in Africa, to roll out jobs in Lagos. Ngozi here again, curating a celebratory moment with the towering figure in African enterprise, celebrating Alhaji Aliko Dangote. Ngozi here again, sitting with her boss this time, the chairman of the largest bank in Africa by asset size and customer base, entrusted with management of 12 entities within his network. As impressive as all of that looks and sounds, I've come here through a path that is accessible to everyone in this room, to you, and to you. And I'll tell you why I said so. Permit me to read this script because I got the details from my mother just a few days ago, and we call her the analyst, and she is very big on factual details, so I'm going to read it as she shared it with me. I was born into a family of 6 and raised by 2 civil servants who self-sponsored their education from secondary school to the university because they had to. My mother, born in Calabar, into a family of 4 boys and 3 girls, had her education funding cut off when her father was ill-advised to stop educating his daughters and rather save his money to send her younger brothers to school. But time and chance happened. She found a relative to stay with in Benin and quickly found a job as a clerk at the local water board. If it was in our time, we'll call her a chief aquatic controller. On LinkedIn, of course, I added that. She joined the Continuing Education Center and eventually got into Obafemi Awolowo University, 𝐴̀lé-Ifẹ̀. Great. That was a test. So there she even learned how to play basketball only because it fetched her a sports allowance which sustained her through school. She graduated with a BSc in mathematics as the 2nd female graduate in her town. My father, born in Ado-Ekiti to a large polygamous family, had his funding cut off when his mother made the tragic mistake of cooking poisonous mushrooms which claimed the lives of his 3 siblings. She was kicked out of the house. There were enough wives to spare anyway. He, being the lone survivor, was sent to an older half-brother in Ibadan who could only afford to enroll him as an apprentice in a mechanic workshop. And again, time and chance happened to him. Guess where this mechanic workshop was situated? Right beside the famous Loyola College on Old Ife Road, Agodi. Determined to be like the boys he saw go through those gates every single day, he abandoned his training after 3 years and took up a job at B&Y Pools. That's the ancestor of sports betting. After 5 years of work and self-study, he wrote the London GCE exams, passed all 6 papers. He aced his A-levels, clearing all 3 papers at his first sitting, got admitted into University of Ibadan, wait for it, having never attended a secondary school. There are several lessons to draw from both their stories. They both saw their pain as doors instead of walls. They didn't just chase opportunity, they created it. And their lives remind me every day that you don't need perfect conditions to produce exceptional outcomes. Fundamentally, they worked hard. But what does this story have to do with entrepreneurship and sponge and stones that you can see as the hashtag there? Everything, and I will tell you that in a detail, because check them. So when my parents, who fought every inch of progress to be able to get an education for themselves, give birth to someone like me, why you are not a born goat? Ingrained in me is the DNA of a fighter. So fundamentally, the Elumelu girls and the boy, which eventually came along at the end of the day, as we were fondly called, we understood from a very young age that education was an opportunity that was offered to us on an altar of sacrifice. And that sacrifice needed to be honored with faithful stewardship and ownership for our success. So, when time and chance also happened to me, and I got into KPMG in 2009, I wasn't just any other employee. I was somebody on a mission to chart her own course and to succeed in her career. On that career journey, I became a sponge, soaking up all the lessons, all of the blessings, all of the experiences that came with those roles. If only my clicker would work now, you would see what that journey has looked like so far. Because it's a graph, I'm going to have to wait for it to come up. It's a visual, so I'm going to have to wait for it to come up. In the meantime, I was going to ask someone to guess who I was in that picture. But this is what that journey has looked like, because I chose to be a sponge and not a stone. Entry level in 2009, this was not 2009, this was 2011, but don't worry, when you check closely, you will see the size of the eyebrows and know that that was that year, but I haven't changed that much. But in that time, I've worked in 3 organizations, 1 local, 1 regional, 1 international, with 3 different cultures and settings. I've built a family, gotten married to a wonderful man, had 3 children, a teenager, a twin, and a toddler today, and I've occupied 7 different roles, all in back office functions. Yet, I've achieved 11 promotions, become a C-suite executive in 16 years, all under 40. But this scripture always comes to mind. The race is not to the swift, the battle is not to the strong, and it ends up with something I'm going to be saying over and over. Time and chance happeneth to who? Them, all. So here's what I mean by time and chance. Time and chance I present to you today are people. And if there are people right beside you, then time and chance happens to you every day. If you face problems or challenges, like I know we like to say, then time and chance happens to you every day. If you have a platform, if you have an organization, and you have a position, then you have platforms. So that leaves us with 2 variables in our equation, right? Now we know what time and chance is, right? All that is left is to find out what sponge and stone means. So I'm going to unveil my experiment now. And hopefully, I don't have issues with this one. So I'll start with the stone. It's always good to start with the heavier task, like they say, right? In problem solving. I said you should help me get a lighter stone. So I'm going to drop it in. This is our time and chance now, as ubiquitous as water is, right? The people, the problems, the platforms is our water. And here is our stone. Completely impervious to its environment, sinks right to the bottom, doesn't change in shape, doesn't adapt, doesn't expand, just sits right there complaining, blaming, and blocking the flow of others. On the other hand, we have in the same environment, in the same time and chance, gets into the water, goes through time and chance every day, absorbs the water, becomes heavier, can clean things, adapts, changes shape, maybe not this particular one, but changes shape, becomes a conduit to be able to impact the lives of others. And then it goes back into time and chance, once again, interacting with the environment, with people and problems, filling up again, and impacting even more lives. So now you know all the variables in my equation, and we can go on with why I'm talking about this in the context of entrepreneurship. So let's look at how people who have the sponge mindset and the stone mindset think in the workplace. You can start marking your script too. My business is the business. I'm all about growth. Stonehead says, it's not my father's business. Spongehead says, what can I learn from this? Stonehead says, HR has not sent me. Spongehead says, let's do some research, find out how things are done in other places. No time, send me the templates. Stonehead says, Spongehead says, here's what we can do. Tell us what to do. I don't have time. Sponge says, that's our chance when problem comes. Omo, it's time to. The sponge mindset will say, I'll build till we are done. And then the stone mindset says, this one, I know the guilty people are the ones who are not talking. Say it. Say it the way you said it on Friday. Say it again. Be marking your script. Oh, I have an idea. You go soon come. Impact has no pay grade. My value cannot be valued. I'll do more when I have skin in the game, when I get equity, right? It's above my pay grade. I'll do more when they pay me more. And my favorite, you get it first thing in the morning. I'll try by the grace of God. He has still not sent it. Let's pave new roads. They carry me where I don't know. So as jarring as it is, and I know many of us don't want to be coconut head on the left, we should ask ourselves, if we tilt more towards the orange than the green, what happened to our dreams? Because the very first person who used the word entrepreneur defined entrepreneurship as one who takes on hands-on responsibility for creating innovation of any kind within an organization. And so, as we saw in that analogy, all entrepreneurs are employees, but not all employees are entrepreneurs. Clearly, you're not alone if you skewed more towards the orange. What you experienced is representative of our country, and we see how it impacts our development versus more developed countries. We see how many African countries lag when it comes to the Global Innovation Index. So I present to you the fact that not only do you need to be more of a sponge than a stone, your company needs you to be more of a sponge than a stone. Nigeria, Kenya, Rwanda, South Africa, and the entire continent of Africa need us to be more sponges than stones. I've been fortunate in my short career to meet people who have graced me with the mindset of the sponge and not the stone. I'll share very quickly with you what 9 of those many, many lessons are on my journey. The very first of them was taught to me by the CEO, or the former CEO of Citibank, who was also the former CEO of Union Bank. Entrepreneurs need structure and culture to thrive. As I looked into the data, I wondered about a contradiction, because even ChatGPT defines the African spirit as entrepreneurial, innovative, ingenious, creative, youthful, enterprising. So what happens when we come into the workplace? It feels like our fire goes out, we turn it down, and we become stones. 5 of these factors were super critical for organizations that wanted to embed innovation in their culture. Culture itself, the structure, leadership, funding, and initiatives. These were things that Emeka Imuwa in Union Bank at that time prioritized. Things like innovation were treated as a business and funded accordingly. There were initiatives like annual innovation challenges, which I would always participate in. That's the same mindset we have adopted in Coronation. And today we have a venture like Fiducia, which is a supply chain management firm that basically was built from idea to prototype to MVP. And today it's a venture. So if you are in such an organization, before I go into my next lesson, and you had anything of that similitude, and ideas at anything, a hackathon, an innovation challenge, please get in there. Get in there, build your cross-functional skills, gain the legitimate visibility, and see how it accelerates your career. The second lesson I learned was from Lola Cardoso, who was the ED responsible for digital and innovation at the time. And in one of those challenges, I took on, a hypothesis under culture. Employees need more money to be more productive and entrepreneurial. And my responsibility at that time, which I allowed her push me into, was to go around Nigeria, testing that hypothesis. At this time, Union Bank was in every state of Nigeria and the FCT. And my role was to go around talking to people using this metaphor of a garden. And with a tiny budget, I went around with people, 2 people alone, all across the country, not eventually getting to every state, but meeting people in regions and clusters, asking them these questions. What do we need to root out? So what are the weeds? What do we need to plant? So what are the seeds? And people wrote and wrote on Post-it notes until I ran out of Post-it notes. And I got back to Lagos, analyzed all that data, presented it to executive management, and eventually formulated what was our refreshed employee value proposition. Today, that employee value proposition is still touching lives. I asked you the one thing that a sponge or someone with a sponge mindset would ask. When you see the work you have done 20 years from now, would you be proud? Would it give you goosebumps when you see the work that you have done? Well, this work, as I looked through my folders, it did give me goosebumps, to be honest. But you see, you've heard me talk about how I traveled, I presented, I analyzed, I did this, I, and all that I got me into trouble with the one department you don't want to offend in a large organization. Guess what that department is? Absolutely. So what do you think HR was doing when I was traveling around Nigeria with my little brown purple suitcase, with my big KPMG grammar, telling people, all this. They were waiting for me in Lagos with bated breath. Because at the end of the day, I needed to collaborate deeply with them to take the EVP from PowerPoint slides to people's lives. Entrepreneurship requires collaboration. Even the champions of EPL know that you never walk alone. So I learned that very painful lesson through the one person who was at that time a detractor, but eventually became someone I deeply admired and still admire till today. Mian Swoman, who was the head of HR at the time. And he told me very clearly, Ngozi, one day you would not have the authority and the clout of transformation, and you would need to have built your credibility within this organization, because entrepreneurs need a driver's license, and it is called trust. So how did I start building my trust? I read this book later on, but this framework presents how you can build your trust. Leveraging your talents, the things you are naturally good at, adjusting your attitudes, all of those shoulder pad, that you need to bring down, the humility you need to learn, understanding that you don't know everything about every function, gaining the right skills, business acumen, understanding, gaining the knowledge of finance. Nobody respects anybody who doesn't understand how they make money, no matter how sweet their English is. And then adjusting my style to be more and more authentic. Now, when it comes to authenticity, authenticity is required of you wherever you go, even when you're on LinkedIn. You'll read some LinkedIn posts, to be honest, and you wonder who else is left in this organization if this person did all this that they did alone. Authenticity is, and I have no problem with LinkedIn. As a matter of fact, when it comes to building trust, in my experience, I have seen how using LinkedIn to build external visibility has actually given me more internal credibility. My fifth lesson came as I kind of found my true north as time and chance happened to me. Right in the middle of the bank's centenary project, as I transitioned from transformation, the project manager who was responsible for the anniversary left the bank. And my CEO at that time told my boss, who was 𝐓𝐏𝐏𝐿 𝐸𝐻𝐿, they were no longer going to search for a project manager, and I had to take on the management of that project. There, I found my true north in marketing and communications, learning from that the strength of conviction, the courage that is required to take bold decisions creatively, and that led to many of the things that 𝐓𝐿 read in my bio, leading me to understand that entrepreneurship is not risk-free. So yes, sometimes we run into crises, and you need a teacher like Pastor Poju to help you. Did you really think I would talk about my career without talking about Pastor Poju? I'm a card-carrying member of the Covenant Nation. I joined on November 17, 2005. And every single time I've been in a crisis, it feels like I was in a room with Pastor that morning and he came to preach to me alone. Now, when you pass through 3 CEO transitions in an organization, you go through various degrees of change. Sometimes your role gets redefined entirely. Sometimes you get new targets, but through those experiences, you learn 2 things: new skills, new technical skills like business development. You get to reconnect with those people you blocked in your alumni group because you need CASA. They may not give you the money that you need, but you have reconnected with them for a reason you're yet to find out. Life is deep. You also build your character. You learn patience. You learn humility. You learn empathy if you have the right perspective, because we all grow through the things we go through. So, of course, it brought me to a time where I was getting agitated. Everybody was leaving the bank for one reason or the other, and I also wanted to leave. And I learned this lesson from my former boss, who was the transformation director, Joe Mbulu, who was now the CFO of the bank. He told me very clearly, Ngozi, don't leave for the what, leave for the why. Entrepreneurs are like good seed in good soil. You don't just get transported just for the extra 100K, extra 1 million, extra car, whatever it might be. Entrepreneurs understand that career decisions are crucial, and it's important to know your why. It is important to know your why. It is important to know your why. So, I find myself today in Coronation, a decision I made against the advice of many people, I would say. Difference in culture. Can you stand it in Coronation? Can you stand the way they work? And so every day when I hear my boss, 𝐓𝐏𝐏𝐿 say these words, you don't serve, or I don't serve a lower God, it reminds me that I'm there on purpose. But it's also profound because I've never heard anyone say, I serve a lower God. I've met people who say, I don't serve any God, I don't believe in God. I've met people who say, there's a God, but I don't do all that God stuff. But nobody ever says, I serve a lower God. And he says this and reminds me of all those people who made it their aim to win every prize winnable on speech and prize giving day. You remember them, right? All those wisdom, magajuju. Best in physics, wisdom, magajuju. Best in chemistry, magajuju, wisdom. Best in physics, magajuju. And then their mother will come and she will be dragging her dress. Don't! They'll be dragging the trophies. Hold it. Oh, wait. And then when you get into the car, your parents will be silent. Does wisdom have 2 heads? So what am I soaking up as a sponge in Coronation? Is the spirit of ambition. I'm learning to dream again. And I'm not just doing it alone, I'm doing it with a team, helping us every day to find our calling in the context of the ambition, which is to see a continent transformed. And so we know that work is a platform. It's a platform for us to fulfill our dreams and our ambitions. And I will tell you one thing, KPMG was not truly my first job. My first job was as an accidental voiceover artist, accidental TV model, accidental commercial model, accidental usher, looking for extra 5K and free clothes. And when I joined KPMG, it felt like my dreams had collided with reality, and I had to settle into somebody I was not. Today, many years down the line, I find myself right here back in the arts, at the intersection of finance and visual arts, where I'm partnering with federal governments, I'm partnering with museums all over the world to democratize access to African art. So now let me tell you, thank you. And it's all on the back of the work that I do. If you think that your passion is blocking your dreams and your 9 to 5 is getting in the way, let me just remind you that sometimes the passion you're chasing has chased you, overtaken you, and is waiting in your future patiently for you to understand that time and chance will bring you to it. And so, as I wrap up, I want to express my gratitude to all of my lesson teachers who brought me to where I am today. I shared with you the lessons that they graciously demonstrated to me: leadership, ownership, collaboration, building my social capital, having the courage to be creative and to trust my guts, knowing that if it does not scare me, then it's not worth it. I shared with you why it is important to have the sponge mindset and not be crushed like a stone is crushed when pressure is applied to it. To move on purpose, to have ambition, even if you are working in another man's business or another woman's business, does not extract your ambition. And then to be impactful in all that you do. So if you didn't remember anything I said, the sponge mindset. So, time and chance is happening to you every day. Right now, on your seat, time and chance is happening to you. What are you going to do with it? I did say I would share with you 10 lessons. So here's my own lesson, which is drawn from an instruction that I will hear my father say to us on every big day. Beat them, boys and girls, he will tell us. And even though he got missing 30 years ago, that instruction is still playing on the background like a code running in my DNA. So when I join an organization, I'm not just there for myself. I'm there for my Heavenly Father to see what he will do through me in the lives of those I would encounter. That process is what brought me to you today, made you listen to me so attentively and graciously, and for that, I'm extremely grateful. Thank you.
Mrs. Akinyele. I'm sure we could give her another round of applause. That was loaded, wasn't it? Time and chance is happening every day to us. What are we going to do with it? Can you ask the person next to you, what are you going to do with it? Those were some of her parting words this morning. I'd like to thank you very much, Mrs. Akinyele, for that powerful presentation. There were so many things said that I'm sure we would delve a bit deeper into when we have the panel conversation. But just highlighting a few things that stood out for me. I'm sure we all had our notes, and we're going to be referring to those notes a long time after today. Work is a platform. How many of us believe that? I don't know if you marked your script when she asked us to mark our scripts and she was going through those different comments, the sponge versus the stone. Is there anybody who's a stone in the room today or watching online? Well, I'm sure we won't want to reveal that. But I think what is instructive for us all is that whether we are stones or we came into this room, and for those watching online, came to the Platform Africa today as a stone, one thing is sure: we're living here now as sponges. Right or right? Right or right? Ladies and gentlemen, for that, please, a round of applause for yourselves. And then she talked about tasks, talent, attitude, skills, knowledge, style. She also mentioned people, platforms, problems, and the perspectives that we have. If you're a sponge or you have a sponge mindset, the perspectives that a stone mindset would have, and the opportunities that exist. Very, very instructive. What are you going to do? I'm asking myself the same question. What am I going to do? Because time and chance is happening to us all every day. Thank you very much. We will move to our next speaker. Was that indeed insightful? Was it insightful? Yes. All right. And those of us who are joining online, please make sure to continue to use the hashtags. And those of us in the room, it's the Platform Africa. Please use the hashtags and share some of these nuggets that our speakers are dropping live here in Lagos, Nigeria this morning. All right, we'll move to our next speaker. And our next speaker is Mr. 𝐓𝐿 𝐏𝐥𝐚𝐭. A round of applause for our next speaker. All the way from Kenya. Remember, it's the Platform Africa. Nigeria, can we show our speaker all the way from Kenya how we do it at the platform? Mr. 𝐓𝐿 𝐏𝐥𝐚𝐭 leads Ipsos Strategy 3 across Pan-Africa, where he helps organizations across East and West Africa unlock value through product innovation, strategic transformation, and ESG integration. With over 15 years of experience, Mr. 𝐓𝐿 has advised multinational corporations, scale-ups, and social enterprises on how to build market-relevant offerings that drive growth and sustainability. With deep expertise in market sizing, sales channels design, and product market fit assessment, 𝐓𝐿 blends analytical rigor with strategic foresight. He's formally trained in economics, econometrics, and mathematics, pure mathematics. And he has delivered work in over 25 countries across Africa and the Middle East. I'm sure some of us are wondering, a Kenyan man with the name 𝐓𝐿. We'll delve into that much later. Ladies and gentlemen, the Platform Africa, please join me as we welcome Mr. 𝐓𝐿 Oyemade, all the way from Kenya. A round of applause till he gets to the podium. You're welcome, sir.
Can you hear me? Great. Okay, first, I think I need to change that profile, man. It gives an impression that is very, very up there. Yeah, but yeah, happy to be here. Thank you, team, for inviting me. And this is great. Secondly, I hope I'll do justice to what Ngozi has just done. Yeah, in fact, I was thinking of asking Kenneth if you want to come second. Because, Ndia, you sure? No? Going once? Yeah. All right, cool. So, I'm going to speak about, again, entrepreneurship, but from a context of my experience, which is around advising businesses, and having worked across Africa for quite a while now, I think it's prudent for me to say that what I've come across and what I've realized is that African solutions are better addressed by Africans. Yeah? And that is why the title of my presentation today is that Africa's future won't be imported, it will be built from the inside out, but from an entrepreneurship point of view. Okay. Also trying. Okay, good. Yeah, so let's just get over and done with this. Yeah, because I get this question a lot and all that, right? So, my name is 𝐘𝐏 𝐏𝐿. I am Kenyan by birth. I am Nigerian at heart. Yeah. Yeah. And I like saying that I have an African DNA, right? I am, yes, a mathematician by training, but really have segued more into impact-based research, impact-based advisory, and things like that, using data, of course. And today I'm here just as a dreamer like you, like everyone else here, just to try and share ideas on how we can grow as entrepreneurs and what we need to do. So over time, and thanks to all this work that we've been doing, I started working on something called the Intrapreneurs Playbook for Africa. And the whole point around it is that I'm thinking while unlocking internal innovation and embracing diversity and building resilience, which Ngozi spoke about, will define our next story around growth, right? And what I've done is that there are factors around this that I've put together. So the internal factors and the external factors. And to help us just understand the internal and the external factors, the internal, I call it cradle. Cradle of mankind, cradle of what, all that, right? So to help us, okay. All right. So in the cradle, the C is for culture, right? And what I'm saying here and what we've discovered over time is that entrepreneurs thrive in environments where failure is seen as learning and not seen as a shameful thing, right? Within the R of it, within the cradle, there's resources. Again, over time, and this goes to Ngozi's point around talent and your team, is resources, where our greatest resource, much as I'll speak about more of the resources and everything else, our greatest resource we have as African is our people, right? That is the greatest resource we have. We have the youngest population and all that and stuff like that, right? Then alignment to the core mission. If you miss your mission, you're out, right? Once you set it, if you start going against the grain, if you want to try new things and all that, which is fine, but if you miss the mission, you're missing out on a lot. So projects that are disconnected, cool but random, rarely survive in the long term. Then there's diversity, right? Which I think is very, very critical in our context. If you look at us, 54 countries, over 2,000 languages, I don't know how many cultures there are in. There's a lot of diversity within the region, and only embracing this is what will help us as entrepreneurs to drive value within the products, to drive value within the services that we offer. There's learning, where, entrepreneurs grow at the speed of their learning and not faster, right? Then finally, within the internal factors, there's evolution. We need to change, we need to adapt. We need to adapt to the evolving times and the evolving markets within us, right? Within our markets, within the region we are looking at, within elements that we are thinking through. Therein now, they are the external factors, yeah? I thought, I really worked on that slide for it to move like that. I thought Gary would clap or something. Yeah. So the external factors. So the external factors, you have your markets. So different markets, African markets are diverse. I've spoken about that. They are fragmented. They demand local relevance. And there's no blanket solutions for all these markets. If you go to the south, if you go to the west, if you come to the east, there are different solutions. As an entrepreneur, as someone within an organization, you need to be familiar with this. Ecosystems, innovation thrives faster with strong external ecosystems, so partners, tech hubs, NGOs, funders, and the likes, right? You have the regulations which are in place, where of all these assignments that we've done for different players across the region, there's a point around understanding the regulations in place, understanding the policies, understanding the laws, because this is very fundamental in how you perform as a business, or how internally as a business you also structure yourself, and how you will eventually reach your markets, right? Then growth volatility. There are so many shocks. I remember there was a time when there was this point around the middle income category in Africa. I don't know if we remember that some years ago. And the whole definition around it was that this population is above $2 a day, and as such, there are many middle income categories. But what we didn't factor in was that there's lower middle income, that is the $2 to $5 per day, of which any external shocks therein move them back to the... So many entities ended up setting up in Africa, West Africa, East Africa, and all that. But they ended up closing after 1 year, 1.5 years, because they did not factor that in their business. Then you need to understand your end user. Very different people, very different markets, very different dynamics. For purposes of this discussion, I'm going to focus on the internal factors as we are looking at basically entrepreneurship, but that's not to say that these elements are mutually exclusive. So eventually you have to look at the internal and the external factors for you to thrive as an entrepreneur. Great. For those who are in management consulting, I'm sure you've come across this statement somewhere. And if you remember, the C in the cradle was, culture. And the statement by Peter Drucker here that culture eats strategy for breakfast, right? You might have the best strategies, you might have all these things put together over time with different groups of people, but if your culture isn't fit, if your organizational culture isn't aligned to the market and what you're aiming at achieving, you basically are messed up. So what is culture? In this case, and in this context, I'm talking about, these are essentially shared beliefs and behavior and unspoken rules that shape how people make decisions and take risks within organizations. So the shared beliefs, the behaviors and the unspoken rules that shape how we as people take decisions and take risks within businesses. Like I said, you may have the perfect plans, but if your culture does not support it, it resists the change, it punishes risks or discourages learning, it's all up there, right? So within culture, so there are 3 buckets that I'll be looking at within each of these elements that we are talking about. So one, in culture, we are talking about strategy setting the destination, but culture decides if you'll get there, right? We'll come up with plans, you'll come up with all these fancy documents, and we've seen them, right? But the culture that you have as a business is what will determine whether you get there or not. So you can make the best roadmap, but if your culture punishes risk or clings to outdated ways of working, execution dies at the start, right? So as entrepreneurs, and even in our lives, our personal lives, I remember many a times, even growing up, people used to ask us, what culture do you harbor? And not culture in the sense that, where do you come from and all that, but what culture do you harbor? What have you culturing as your ways of working and ways of living? So if that doesn't work, your plans die at the start. Number two therein was the element around value. Yeah? And culture drives everyday decisions, even when no one is watching. I don't know how many of us can relate to that. So when no one is watching, when you think you're alone, are you doing what you deem is right? Or are you doing whatever you would want to do by yourself? I remember one of the questions that one of my friends used to ask. So he's a marriage counselor in Kenya, and anytime someone would come to him and tell him that I want to marry, so would you be our counselor and all that, the first question he used to ask is, would you marry yourself? Yeah. If the response is no, then don't shift that burden to anyone. Yeah. So culture drives everyday decisions, even when no one is watching. Value is created not just by leaders, by what leaders decide in boardrooms, but by what teams believe, say, and do in the field, right? Then, of course, there's the fact that culture outlasts strategy, which I've spoken about, and can kill it if it's misaligned. Yeah, and essentially, what you're saying is that strategies change. We come up with different plans. We come up with ways of survival and all that. But again, if your culture doesn't befit it, if your culture doesn't allow, the culture will outline the strategy and kill it if it's misaligned. Right? Resources. Remember the cradle, so we've done the C, the R. And the resources we're talking about, Africa's greatest innovation will not come from having the most money. It will come from unlocking the resourcefulness, creativity, and resilience of its people, right? And over time, I've seen this. So if you're a leader in your business, if you're not a leader in your business, what I've seen internally and the best way to grow is by letting other people grow as well, right? I remember I once had a boss who, we had an interesting conversation with her, and it'll come later also in this discussion. And so I told her, look, we need to upskill our resources, we need to train them more, we need to whatever. So they need to go through a learning process. And I remember she asked me, what if we train them and they leave? And I asked her, what if we don't and they stay? Yeah? So your resources are your greatest resource, right? Which we need to tap into. So like I said, the greatest resource in Africa is the people, not the capital. It comes in, yes, the capital plays a function there and we need it, but your resources are your greatest resource, and as an entrepreneur, you need to be cognizant of this. So many African markets, we seem to have some deficiency of financial capital, and it's limited in many of our regions. Those are things that we know. But human ingenuity, resilience, and creativity are abundant in this region. And the only organizations and only entrepreneurs that prioritize unlocking and empowering talent build a lasting value in these organizations. Yeah. Second point is innovation requires more than goodwill. It needs structured investment. Yeah? There's a time we're running something for MSMEs in East Africa. And one of the questions was that, what is your main challenge? What should we do and all that? And they came back and told us, we'll tell you what you shouldn't do. Yeah? Stop taking us into workshops and telling us how to whatever, because all these workshops are just a lot, right? So it needs structured investment as well. If you're talking to MSMEs, if you're in an MSME yourself, yes, it needs a bit of structured investment and structure around where you're putting your resources. So the whole point is that entrepreneurs you can't run on passion alone, right? I know we say, I'm passionate about this, I love this and all that, but you can't run on passion alone, right? So you need dedicated time, seed funding, access to data, which there's quite a lot now, and tools for R&D and experimentation that are non-negotiable. So those are the things that also an entrepreneur you need to take into account when looking at your resourcing. The point number 3 there around resource scarcity should breed creativity and not excuses. I think that is very critical. I stole that point with pride as I was coming to Lagos. So I was seated next to this gentleman, I forget his name, hopefully he's watching. And he said, so we are talking and I'm like, I'm going to be talking about this and whatever. And I asked him, what do you think about this? He said that scarcity, actually he said poverty breeds 2 things. Poverty breeds desperation, hence crime and all that. And poverty also breeds innovation. Yeah? So I'm like, are you sure that's not the whiskey talking? Because that's very serious, man. So my point 3 there was, resource scarcity should breed creativity and not excuses. And we've seen this across different markets in Africa. Your M-Pesas in Kenya, your mobile money transactions across now many African markets. It's because of that scarcity around banking or the bankable population that led to that. And I think that as entrepreneurs, that is something that we need to, in fact, if anything, this is a very key point for me, that resource scarcity should breed creativity and not excuses. All right, moving on. So the third point is on alignment to your core mission, right? So innovation and value are only as valuable when it serves the mission. What mission do you have, even as you're growing up, you're growing across your career, as you make your plans and all that? What are you looking at as a long term, right? What are your plans and how do you get there? So innovation and value are only valuable when it serves the mission. Everything else, in my view, is noise, dressed up in strategy and all that, right? So the 3 elements around here are 1, and here I just chose to write the way I speak. So cool, but random ideas waste your time, man. They are cool, but they are very random and they are not aligned to your core mission. They are not aligned to what you're looking at. They waste time, right? Strategy changes, mission endures. That's what I had spoken about. And then alignment creates resilience during tough times. So what we're talking about around cool but random ideas waste time, energy, and also trust is the fact that when you have demand focus and clarity, you tend to succeed when ideas solve real customer problems. You come up with you strengthen the orders and the purpose of what your business stands for or what you stand for as an individual, right? Then strategy changes that I'd spoken about and mission endures, and it's sort of linked to what we've spoken about, the cultural aspect of it. Because the truth of the matter is this: markets will evolve. That's no doubt. Things will change. Markets will evolve. Products will pivot. Tactics shift. But your core mission, what you set out to do, should be the guiding light of what you're looking at, right? So innovation must be flexible in execution, but fixed on purpose. Then alignment creates resilience during tough times. So like I mentioned, when external conditions now get tough. You have your inflation, you have your regulations, you have your shocks. Only mission-aligned projects survive internal scrutiny. And that is something that I think is key for entrepreneurs, particularly when you're looking at growing within these tough economic environments that we are looking at. Diversity. So with diversity, I think, yeah, this is quite an interesting topic across different cultures across the world. But essentially what we are looking at here, and why I picked that point, is that epidemics love monocultures. And the reason why I actually deliberately chose that image of the cheetah there is that there's something called the zookeeper's crisis, right? And over time, what was happening is that now in the West, so zookeepers believe that they can, instead of coming to Africa and getting animals and whatever, why don't we just breed the ones we have internally and we increase the population? And it worked. It worked for quite a number of animals, except the cheetah. And what was the case with the cheetah was that for every, I think the mortality rate was quite high. It was there 95, 90% or something of the sort, right? Now, what they did is that they went back and tried to study what is the issue with this particular animal. And one of the things they tried was skin grafting, right? Now, when you're doing skin grafting, if you get the graft from another person or a relative and all that, your body will reject it, right? Because the genotype is not the same, it will reject it. So the only case where skin grafting works is if it's from your skin or if it's from a twin, right? That's when skin grafting would work. Now, this is the only mammal in the world where you can graft something from, if a cheetah is in, I don't know, Asia, and somewhere else, it'll accept the skin. Yeah? It won't even accept a domestic cat's skin, but it'll accept from elsewhere. So the scientific explanation of it goes like, during all those years ago, I don't know, it was 12,000 or what, the Ice Age period. So an expectant cheetah went into a burrow or whatever, came back with its cubs, and everything was wiped out. So what it did is that it forced this animal to breed within itself. I mean, worked for it, fastest animal, whatever, and all that, maintain the genotype and all that, and you can graft the skin. But the challenge with it is that this animal is very susceptible to external shocks. A cheetah can die of a flu. Yeah? It can, in fact, it is said that, I forget the name of that particular strain, but the weakest version of the equivalent of COVID virus, first, it gets into cats and cheetahs and all that. Cheetahs are the only animals that die of that thing. Yeah. So, and that's what I'm saying, epidemics love monocultures. And that's what I'm talking about. We need to figure out this diversity thing and ensure that you're diverse and bring different thinking within your organizations and within your team and all that. One of the things that I like doing in my team, anytime I'm, say, recruiting and all that, is look for guys who are street smart, look for guys who are book smart. Bring them together, and you have a blend that works. And I remember once, well, I don't know how this will sit, but I remember once a friend of mine was telling me that the challenge with that is that you can face two very strong personalities that have come together and they would fight and all that. And he gave this example of, and it's a common saying in Africa that when two elephants are fighting, it's the grass that gets hurt. And I told him, but that's the case also when they are mating. Yeah? Just because you are aligned on something doesn't mean that that's particularly works. It could lead to serious situations, serious elements that do not support You as an individual, you as a business, you need to encourage that diverse way of thinking. Like I said, monocultures create fragility. Yeah? Diversity creates resilience, and diversity is a market growth strategy, not a moral checkbox, right? One of the challenges that I have nowadays doing this advisory thing, particularly when it comes to sustainability and the element around the social elements of it, a lot of organizations use ESG as a checkbox. True or false? Yeah, they use it as a checkbox. But the way I look at it is sustainability, and in particular diversity, is a market growth plan. It shouldn't be a checkbox. I shouldn't treat someone well just because I want to pass, I don't know what rating and all that, right? So yeah, so diversity, very critical. Moving on, learning and growth. Growth is not something you measure after, it's something you practice daily, right? Again, even in businesses and all that, what you're looking for is not necessarily perfection, you're looking for progress every time. So growth is not something that you measure after, it's something that you practice daily. And three things there that I think are critical and are important for us to know as entrepreneurs is that static organizations become fossils fast, very, very fast. If we don't grow, if we don't adapt, which I'll speak about later, static organizations become fossils. Learning must be beyond workshops. It must be embedded in our behavior. It must be embedded in what we do every day. It needs to be our ethos around what we are doing and how we position ourselves. Then growth comes from those willing to unlearn and relearn, right? Unlearning is not a bad thing. There are certain things that we might have learned. There are certain things that we might have taken as, yeah, this is what works for me, this is what works for the situation based on how the market is. But like I said, markets change. There are shocks that come in. There are many things that will happen out there in your business, in your workplace, in your lives, right? So we need to unlearn that and relearn new things for growth. Then finally, I think it goes without saying that evolution is critical, right? So evolution in this case, and what I'm saying there is you either adapt or you become irrelevant, right? There's a, I don't know, there's an image that that makes rounds and all that. I don't know if you've seen it. Of they don't show the face of the guy, so it's being shared on memes and all that. And this guy has very big trousers and very big shoes, and he's tucked in. They don't show the face, so I'm not feeling bad saying this. So the statement there is, if this is your boss, AI is not taking your job. Yeah? So it's very interesting. But the truth is, right now, what we are seeing is that there's a lot of things like AI coming into place. There's a lot of tech adjustment and development that are coming into place, and we need to utilize this. So evolution, again, in your personal lives, in your works, in your businesses, wherever you are, you need to adapt or become irrelevant. So the three takeaways there are African markets don't wait for anyone, they leap. That is one thing that I've learned, that is one thing that I can bet on. The markets that we live in, they leapfrog, they literally move faster than the growth of other markets that I've seen there. You need to move with the times. Past success is a dangerous discomfort. Yeah, yes, we are happy for you. You've made whatever you did that and all that, but don't get comfortable in that. Move on. Yeah, move on, get on with the times, and evolve with the times. Then evolution is not just about products, it's about mindset. You need also to evolve mentally with how you think, how you relate with people, how you deal with people, and the likes. I'm reminded that my time is up, but just to summarize, one, if anything, just remember cradle. where you have culture, resource alignment, diversity, learning and growth and evolution. I don't know which of these resonated with you more. There's that. Then remember what I had mentioned about the external factors. And that's what I'm saying. But even with the best team in the world, you can be blindsided if you don't understand the world outside your walls. And as such, you need to connect your cradle with your merge. The markets, the ecosystem, the regulation, their growth and volatility, and your end user. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Please, let's keep the applause. Thank you. How was that? Great. I appreciate the styles of our speakers this morning. We're having really good diversity. I know that our two speakers have talked about diversity already, and we're having diversity shining through the different approaches that they're taking. Once more, please, ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together for our speaker. Okay, again, I will just highlight some key lessons I got. I'm sure that we did take notes. Again, remember that the hashtag for today's event is the Platform Africa. It's one word altogether, the Platform Africa hashtag. So please, let's use that hashtag. Those who are watching online, we welcome you to also use the hashtags. And please drop in the comments the lessons that you're learning from our incredible speakers this morning. So we hear the greatest resource that Africa has. It's not exactly money, but people. So can you turn to the person next to you and say, you are Africa's greatest resource? Please say it most assuredly. Say it with conviction. You are Africa's greatest resource. And then tell yourself, I am Africa's greatest resource. And those who are joining online, you can also type that with different emojis as you please. And let's continue to push that out there and let everyone know that we are the greatest resource that Africa has. I don't know if you're also noticing that our speakers so far have talked a lot about adaptability and evolution. So that means from the sponge versus stone, and then we had the cradle concept that our speaker introduced to us. We're seeing that these are key points that we need to pay attention to. So I hope after today's event, a lot of us will start becoming more adaptable and we'll begin to evolve as well. It says learning must move beyond workshops. I really liked that. Learning must move beyond workshops. It must be embedded in behavior. That's so powerful. That's so powerful. It must be embedded in behavior. As entrepreneurs, working within structured organizations, working with other people, as employees, we need to start taking learning beyond just workshops, trainings, and embed them into our behavior. How many people are making that commitment today? Just a show of your hands. And those watching online, thank you. I think that's progress. Again, we are the greatest resource. Okay, enough of that. We'll go deeper again with our speakers where we get into the panel session much later. I have to also inform us that we are live on DSTV channel 196. So if you are having any glitches with internet connection and you would love to join the Platform Africa, you can tune in to DSTV channel 196. We're also transmitting on channels, television, as well as various YouTube channels. I will be introducing our next speaker. Our next speaker is Moroti Adedoyin Adeyinka. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause. Now, before I bring or invite our next speaker to the podium, I would like to do a quick introduction. Moroti Adedoyin Adeyinka is a seasoned business leader with over 3 decades of extensive experience across the petroleum industry value chain. A highly accomplished energy leader with a proven track record of driving growth and innovation in the downstream sector. Her tenure as an executive director at Sahara Group, a leading energy and infrastructure conglomerate, has been marked by significant achievements. She is the chairman of the Depot and Petroleum Products Marketers Association of Nigeria, DAPMA. Beyond her professional accomplishments, Moroti is a strong advocate for women's empowerment and diversity in the energy sector. You see diversity coming up again. She actively mentors young professionals. Ladies and gentlemen, the Platform Africa, please join me as I welcome our next speaker to the podium. Says Moroti Adedoyin Adeyinka. Can we give a platform welcome as we invite her to the podium? Please keep clapping until she gets to the podium. You're welcome.
Can you hear me now? Okay, great. So once again, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, my fellow speakers. And like Nigerians like to say, all protocols observed. I'm indeed honored to be here today, to be standing in front of you to speak about our topic, entrepreneurship. And I'd like to thank Pastor Poju for the invitation. So a little bit about my background with Pastor Poju. I've known him a long time. We both grew up in Ibadan. We went to the same schools. He and his younger sister and I were classmates and friends. And if there's one thing you need to know about people who grew up in Ibadan, is that we're quite clannish. And I guess it's therefore no surprise that I'm here today, right? And so I'm hoping that I can do justice to the invitation and not disgrace my Ibadan people. So I'm not someone who really likes to speak publicly, but something happened to me a few weeks ago. And it was during one of the games at our International Women's Day celebration in the office. Someone came up to me and she said, "Oh, please, can you sign this that you like public speaking?" So I looked at her and I said, "No, I don't like public speaking." And so she went away. And about 30 seconds later, someone else comes up to me and asks me to sign the same thing. And so I'm thinking, okay, Moroti, you've missed something here. But today I'm going to leave it to you to judge after 30 minutes, whether I like public speaking or I don't. Our topic, entrepreneurship, is one that both speakers before me have done a good job to. They've done justice to speaking about it. And I know that the speakers who come after me will do the same. And so I hope that we can all today find interesting nuggets to take away from each of the presentations, things that will help shape our career journeys. But I'd like to say this, please, if you are not really finding anything interesting, just try and keep the expression on your face like you are interested. Okay, so now I'm going to give the formal definition of entrepreneurship that I found on Investopedia. And I know that it's possible, we've sort of heard it time and time again, but I'd like to say, please just bear with me because I'm still going to read it anyway, And remember what I said, just try and look interested. So Investopedia says entrepreneurship refers to a system within a company or organization that allows employees to act like entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are self-motivated, proactive, and action-oriented individuals who take the initiative to develop innovative products or services. Unlike entrepreneurs operate within a company's safety net, absorbing any failures or losses. This support encourages creativity and risk-taking, allowing entrepreneurs to innovate without fearing personal financial loss. By leveraging their creativity and ingenuity, entrepreneurs can drive significant innovation and transform their workplaces similar to entrepreneurs. So if you think about that definition, it's sort of like from an organization's perspective. But this morning, I'd like us to look at entrepreneurship from the lens of an individual. So I've given my presentation the title, Leading from Within. So what does entrepreneurship mean to me as an individual? What does it mean to each one of us? How has it shaped my trajectory? How will it shape the trajectory of all of us? What are the things you should pay attention to as an entrepreneur to help shape our career, our future, our destination? So today I'm going to be drawing from my experiences as I've navigated my own career, and hopefully, we can learn a few things from there. And I'll be taking us through 5 principles that will help guide us through our journey as we rise to the top of our careers or organizations. So first, what does entrepreneurship mean to me, Olumoroti? I like to call myself by my full name. What does entrepreneurship mean to Olumoroti? Simply put, it means displaying the mindset of a business owner within a business that you do not own. I'll say that again. Displaying the mindset of a business owner within a business that you do not own. It means you are actively working for the success and growth of a business that isn't yours, because somewhere deep inside of you, you recognize that that job isn't just another 30 days make one pay. It's not just another job. You feel a deep sense of responsibility to how well it succeeds or doesn't. And in other words, you own that job, right? In life, I've discovered that everyone has potential. Everyone is passionate about something. Most people are committed and loyal, and everyone has value. But not everyone can be an entrepreneur. So it's important to know who you are and who you are not. And that brings me to my number 1 principle, which I've titled, Know Thyself. You need to understand who you are. What are your values? And what value do you place on yourself? These are 2 different things. One speaks to what's your system of beliefs, whilst the other one speaks to your sense of self-worth, right? And so you need to have a good understanding of both of these about yourself. And sometimes, I have to do a lot of introspection to get that understanding. But if you need to, please do so, because that understanding is very important. And why is it important? It's important because you can only excel if you're true to yourself. To be successful, you need to be clear about who you are and what drives you. What does success look like to you? And what belief systems will guide you towards that success? You need to have a vision for your life. When you know who you are, it's easier to then identify the kind of organization that you can thrive in. And even if you're not sure of that, you will at least know the kind of organization you cannot thrive in. It doesn't mean that one organization is good and another is bad, or one is better than the other. No, not necessarily. That's not what it means. It just means that you are better able to make an informed decision about where you will thrive. Knowing who you are is like shining a torchlight in the dark to guide your steps. Once you have a good understanding of who you are and what drives you, then my second principle will be like a natural progression. And that principle number 2 is find alignment. I guess the speaker before me also spoke about alignment. Alignment is important because to truly thrive, you need an environment that allows you to exhibit the best of you, where your creativity can manifest itself. A place where there's some sort of harmony between who you are, where you want to go, the way you see things, and where that organization that you find yourself in wants to go. Now, you cannot find that harmony if you don't know who you want to be. Knowing yourself helps in propelling you towards alignment in a work environment, a place where you're comfortable, but you're not complacent, where you're not looking for the next job because that next job pays better or it provides more vacation days or something. Finding alignment means that to a large extent you share the same beliefs, cultures, ethos as the organization you're in and the people around you. You have the same vision, or at least you're able to see your own vision as a subset of the bigger vision. And so the moment you stop buying into that wider vision, or that vision becomes confusing or unclear to you, you start to look for something else. I'll talk about myself a little bit. In the first 10 years of after graduation, after university, the maximum I stayed in any job was 4 years. You know, the truth is, by year 2.5, I'm already becoming uncomfortable. I'm bored. I'm looking for something else. My attention span was short. I needed a challenge constantly. And I described myself then as having the attention span of a gnat. I just needed a challenge constantly. And so when I moved to Sahara, I gave myself a 4-year deadline. By year 4, I'll be done here. You know, I'll be ready to go. But here I am today, 23 years and counting. And you know how that was possible? Thank you. It was possible because I was true to myself. Being true to myself helped me recognize and gravitate towards alignment. Sahara gave me the platform to exhibit the best of me. And you know, yeah, I was young and impatient. If you didn't do that for me, I'd have moved. I'd have gone somewhere else. I didn't have the patience to stay with it if it wasn't working. A few years after I got to Sahara, you know, we're all young then. This is 20-something years ago. There was a young lady who, I was her line manager, and she came to me and she said, "Oh, why did you leave your previous job?" Now, that previous job, for a lot of people looking from the outside, and it seemed like a cushy job, you know, dream job. You could travel, exposure, and all of that. So she said, "Why did you leave?" I looked at her. I thought, how will I respond? I said, "Because there was no work to do." She said, "What do you mean there was no work to do?" I said, "You know, all the work I had to do in 1 month, I could do it in 2 weeks." She looked at me. You can guess the next question. She said, "So why did you leave?" I couldn't answer that question at that time. What was the decision that made me leave what someone else considered a cushy job? But today I can answer that question. I was true to myself. I was going somewhere, and that job didn't provide the platform to take me there. Was the place bad? No, of course not. It just meant that there was no alignment between me and that organization. I was confident that I was going to do big things in my life, and that place was not going to provide the platform for me to achieve it. So I go back to principle 1, know thyself. That way, you find purpose and alignment quicker. Okay, so we've done principles 1 and 2. We now know ourselves. We found harmony between who you are, what you are doing Monday to Friday, if you do it Monday to Friday. safety net, absorbing any failures or losses. This support encourages creativity and risk-taking, allowing entrepreneurs to innovate without fearing personal financial loss. It means you can be an entrepreneur in someone else's business. An entrepreneur, according to Investopedia. And Investopedia says, feel free to lose someone else's money. This is Africa. Let's remember, there's some kind of someone else's money that you will lose, that nobody will tell you that you need to resign from there. It will become personal financial loss to you. Don't even come back to drop your resignation letter. Just be going. Just go, because nobody is going to listen to your Investopedia definition at that time. So, on a more serious note, we need to seek opportunities beyond the ordinary day-to-day. You must add value, right? I'm doing a good job. Good, they say, is the enemy of great. You need to be doing a great job. You need to be great at your job. You need to look for ways to make it more than it is. So I'll give an example. You are a gate man. That's your job. You need to be the gate man that brings a solution to every gatekeeping problem. And then after you finish solving those, you need to go and look for people who have a problem and help them solve their own also. Once again, as a young employee, I was very inquisitive. I wanted to understand what everybody was doing. I stuck my nose where it concerned me, where it did not concern me. I must have been very annoying to some people. And honestly, when I think back, I'm thinking, gosh, Morita, you need to find those people and apologize to them. So please, if any one of you is listening today, I'm sorry, I apologize. So I like to be in the thick of things, and in the thick of things, not for gossip, because also there are people who are everywhere, but value add, zero. But I genuinely wanted to add value, and I said that with all humility. I wasn't thinking consciously of, entrepreneurship. In any case, 2 decades ago, it was not a thing, right? So I was just wired that way. But the other thing is, sometimes you're not necessarily wired in a particular way, right? But you see something that you like, you say, I want to be like this. And you wire yourself that way. You mold yourself to become like that, right? And so I wanted to find a solution. If we were looking for a solution to a problem, you could be sure I'll be there. If we were trying to break boundaries, the adrenaline rush will bring me. People need to know you as a solution provider. They need to think about you when they're looking for a solution. And problems will gravitate towards you because you're known for that, being a solution provider. Will you provide solutions 100% of the time? Definitely not. But quite often you will. And because you demonstrate the open-mindedness, the critical thinking, the sense of responsibility required to move things along, the business will gravitate towards you. So I'll go back to my previous job, the one that I could do the 1 month work in 2 weeks. When the general manager of that establishment, and it wasn't a Nigerian establishment, when he was told that I had resigned, he sent for me. And I had already started my new job. So I found a day where I could take off some time. I went to see him, sat down, he said a lot of things to me. And then he said, there are many people that I would like to see go. You are not one of those people. And for me, that was a confidence booster. He told me that when I was there, I was doing something right? So I needed to continue that way. Being in one place for 2 decades is not a joke. Something kept me here, just as something made them keep me. And it wasn't here on one spot. It was growth and success as the business grew and succeeded. And for me, it has been a most interesting and obviously rewarding journey. So very quickly, I'm going to round up principle 3, and I'm going to say, to keep it going, you must find fulfillment in what you do. And that's why principles 1 and 2 are crucial. You need to avoid complacency at all costs, because you be complacent, you get stuck in a rut. Do not let your good be the enemy of your great. So principle 1, know thyself. 2, find alignment. 3, be an owner. 1 to 3, speak to the individual, who you are, what you want, how you should behave. Principle 4, on the other hand, is not about you. It's about life. And that is, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. The 4th principle is speaks to, the drudgery of it all, the sometimes dull, irksome, fatiguing work. You are smart, yes. You've aligned with the right people. Yes, you have. You're taking on the responsibilities and attributes of an entrepreneur, but risking somebody else's capital. That's a joke, by the way. Is it working? Yeah, it's taking a while. You need to understand that it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. Life happens. Challenges come. Status changes. But you need to keep keeping on. There'll be points in that journey that will call for a sprint. So what do? You sprint. But the rest of the time, it's a marathon, steady pace. All sorts of temptations will come, You'll see colleagues who will hop, skip, jump from one job to the other, and they seem to be moving ahead. And you might be tempted to do the same. And by all means, maybe you should, if you haven't found yourself or found alignment. But please, you need to find that alignment quickly so that you can chart a course for your life. Again, that alignment will come with a vision and a strategy that makes you change jobs along a certain path to your destination. But if you're doing so, it has to be with a plan so that it's not haphazard. You need to resist the temptation to go with the flow just because that's what everybody is doing. You need to resist it because you're not necessarily going to the same place. Challenges will come, and in fact, sometimes you'll seem as if, this, my life, is nothing but challenges, right? And so that's why it's important for you to have a vision, because that vision is what is going to keep you. Otherwise, first sign of trouble, you will go. Now, to the women, you're going to have to juggle many things. And I'd like to say that as someone who's been there and done that, you can have it all if you're wise. Career, marriage, children, and they will all thrive if you're wise. Like I said, I've been there, done that. And many women have done it before you. So you learn, you read, you look for mentors. Don't try and reinvent the wheel because it may not be necessary. To everybody now, challenges will come, some will be unexpected. And so we constantly need to be equipping ourselves, upskilling ourselves as we go along. We need to prepare ourselves to deal with unexpected challenges. Whether those challenges are coming as you try to innovate or as you're taking risks, they'll come. So how do you deal with unexpected challenges? Because after all, they're expected. So along your path, you need to read wide, read far and wide, learn all you can, keep an open mind, and hopefully all of these will help you as the challenges come. One other thing to note, never be too proud to ask for assistance. And so I come to the final principle, which is sustained success. Give back, train others, mentor, enable the culture of success, prepare yourself for the next stage. As an entrepreneur, you're not remaining on one spot. Therefore, you're going to need successors so you can move to the next entrepreneurial project. And if you've been exhibiting all of these traits, I dare say that by the time you get to this point, you'll find that there isn't much difference between an entrepreneur and an entrepreneur. So I'm rounding up. I have 6.5 minutes to go. I'd like to say this. There are many stories, just use AI. There are many stories about companies that focused on entrepreneurship and the exponential growth and all of that, that has happened as a result of that. But I want to use a less conventional example. I'll say a road less traveled, and give this example. There was a guy in the Bible. His name was Saul of Tarsus. And this guy, he never met Jesus Christ in the flesh. And in fact, he persecuted the church, the early Christians, after Jesus Christ ascended to heaven. But guess what? The moment he discovered himself and found alignment with Christ's message, you would think that he was there when they said, go into the world and preach the gospel. He owned it. He took it on. He ran with it. And so much so that almost half of the New Testament is attributable to his writings, either directly or indirectly. He took that instruction to preach the gospel. He took it up a notch. He owned it, and he affected the then known world. So what am I saying? I'm saying that in your sphere of influence, whatever that may be, you can be an entrepreneur. and ultimately, if you so desire, an entrepreneur. And now, as I round up finally, I can't conclude this without saying something little about 𝐓𝐿. Obviously, I'm not going to be mentioning numbers, but we've grown the brand to 4 continents, and we're still growing. A lot of our success has come because the core people function as entrepreneurs. And to be a core person, you simply need to be functioning as an entrepreneur. But there's a difference, and that difference is fundamental, between the definition I gave at the beginning and what entrepreneurship means to us at 𝐓𝐿. For us, we consider every failure as deeply personal. And that is what helps us maintain a sense of responsibility. It stops us from being frivolous in everything that we do. We're intentional. And with us, our entrepreneurs can truly be considered entrepreneurs. And so, I've come to the end of my presentation. I still have 4 minutes to go. I think I'm doing well. I'd like to say a big thank you to everybody for listening to me in the last 20 minutes. But more importantly, I'd like to say thank you for looking interested and obeying my instruction. Thank you, everyone. And I know Pastor Poju is not here, but I'd like to say thank you to him and the team also. Thank you.
Please, we can keep the applause going. Thank you. So you gave us an assignment just before you started speaking. You said at the end of your presentation, we should be the judge about whether you enjoyed speaking publicly. Ladies and gentlemen, do we agree that she does enjoy speaking publicly? Do we agree she is great at speaking publicly? Do we agree that she's done a phenomenal job this morning, sharing incredible wisdom with us at this Entrepreneurship Summit? If we do, those watching online, can we put our hands together once again for Mrs. Moroti? Thank you very much. Okay. Very interesting insights shared one more time. To keep going, you must find fulfillment in what you do. Are you a visionary? Are you a builder or a connector? She talked about succession. We have to think about putting successors in place so we can move on to the next entrepreneurial project. So are you thinking succession? Well, maybe it doesn't come naturally to some of us. For others, it's an opportunity today to start thinking consciously about succession within that business, within that company that you work in. I'm sure she has quite a number of people that she's been able to transfer her knowledge and wisdom to in the different organizations she's worked with. And I believe the same is for our other speakers today. With all the experience they have working within organizations, the ones that they have gone through, moved from, evolved from, they've left people behind who've taken the torch and who've continued to carry on the race in those organizations. The question to us this morning is, who are we preparing? Are we even worthy of being handed over the torch by those who are ahead of us as leaders within our organizations? It's a question for us to ask ourselves this morning as we reflect on all of the lessons and the principles that have been shared by our speaker. One more time, ladies and gentlemen, the Platform Africa, a round of applause for our speaker. And then I particularly loved the definition of entrepreneurship. In essence, you told us that it's displaying the mindset of a business owner within a business you do not own. Displaying the mindset of a business owner within a business you do not own. I think that popular phrase for us in Nigeria is, it's not my father's company. or in local parlance, or pidgin as we say, no be my papa get the business. I hope we're having some deep reflections this morning to begin to rethink the way we contribute to the organizations we're working in. And finally, she also mentioned everyone has value, but not everyone can be an entrepreneur. It's important to know who you are and who you are not. All right. Thank you very much. We will move to the next speaker. Our next speaker today is 𝐴𝐴 𝐴𝐴. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. 𝐴𝐴 𝐴𝐴 is the Chief Executive Officer and co-founder of 𝐓𝐏𝐿𝐿, a pioneering electric vehicle leasing business in South Africa. A seasoned finance expert, she holds a postgraduate degree in accounting sciences and is a qualified chartered accountant in South Africa. With a career spanning audit, deal making, and mergers and acquisitions under her leadership, 𝐓𝐿𝐿 has revolutionized South Africa's electric vehicle market by offering a comprehensive solution. 𝐴𝐴's achievements have earned her numerous accolades, including the 2023 Leading Entrepreneur Award from the African Women Chartered Accountants, AWCA, an entrepreneur winning an Entrepreneur Award. And she's also been recognized as one of the top women in mobility in Africa. Joining us today for the first time at the platform, all the way from South Africa, ladies and gentlemen, the Platform Africa, please put your hands together as we warmly welcome 𝐴𝐴 𝐴𝐴, our next speaker. We can do much better than that. Platform.
Well, good morning, everybody. Initially, they gave me this cute mic, but they said I can't use it, this one, but I can use this one. It's an absolute honor to be here today. It's not my first time in Lagos, but every time I'm here, I really wish I was Nigerian. The warmth of the people, the energy of the place. In fact, I even gave myself a name. I think when you see me, call me Oluwakemi. I've got so much FOMO about not being Nigerian that I actually named my son a Yoruba name. His name is Ayo. It's an absolute honor, and I really would like to greet in absentia Pastor Poju and to the organizers of this event. It is a real honor to be here and to be speaking alongside these powerful people. These leaders is actually an honor. Thank you. I'm learning a lot from you. But I think we've been standing for too long. Sitting for too long. So I wish we could stand up and give these speakers a round of applause. That was for me not to feel nervous anymore. Please take your seat. So today we are exploring the powerful world of intrapreneurship. This is where employees are given the license to be entrepreneurs within businesses. So today, as I speak to you, I'm going to share with you my journey in corporate, which spanned about 15 years. And I'm going to also share with you my journey of starting and running an innovative business in South Africa dealing with transportation. But I want to help us look at it from the entrepreneur's point of view, but also take another side and look at it from the intrapreneur within those businesses that go with our solution to see what their thinking process is, so that when we are innovating and becoming intrapreneurs ourselves, we understand what the thought process is. I'm going to finally attempt to give you a framework which you can use to think about innovation and building innovation within your entities or within your job. Is that okay? I'm not seeing my presentation, but let me go on anyway as they bring it on. So I titled my presentation today, "What is holding us back?" Ask your neighbor, what is holding you back? So the reason why I said this is because when you look around us, you might start to think that the time that we are living in today is the worst time of all, which is simply not true. The fact that we've got all this negativity going, what it does for intrapreneurs and for innovators is exactly what it is. Do not waste a good crisis. I want to base my thesis or today on the fact that when the times seem not so great, that is an opportunity for us to innovate. If you think about many innovations that have happened, from the beginning of time, it was somebody who was saying, I am frustrated about something or the way something is done, and they come up with a solution to solve that problem. So here's what we know. Here are the facts. We know that Africa's population is projected to double by 2050. What does that mean? It means as Africans sitting in this room, you and I have an opportunity to a market that is growing in number. Secondly, we also know that among the top 10 skills required for the future are analytical thinking and innovation. Thirdly and finally, what do we know? These are the facts. Organizations are turning to their workforce to innovate as well as look for other ways to do things. So with that said, here is what we do at 𝐓𝐿. And I want to share with us our why for what we do, so that when you think about your innovation, when you think about the problem that you want to solve, you start with that question, why? And I click some more. If we can move to, right, if we can move to the next slide. Next one. There we go. So who is 𝐓𝐿? 𝐓𝐿 is an innovative startup where we bundle commercial electric vehicles, charging infrastructure, as well as a digital IoT platform where we assist our clients to keep charged all the time. So our clients would typically be people who run fleets, organizations who run fleets, who are looking for options to decarbonize. That is our why. Why do we do what we do? We bring a solution to our client that helps them to decarbonize their fleet without the headache. Now, if you had to now turn the table and sit on the other side, where the client is now making a decision of whether they are going with 𝐓𝐿 or not, what are they thinking? They are thinking we've got ESG commitments, environmental, social, and governance. They are thinking the E of the ESG, environmental. We are a polluter in this ecosystem, and we are looking for options to decarbonize our fleet so that we are a responsible corporate citizen. So what we do, so their why is ESG, and our why is to solve their problem. You see it? And so we contribute to the electrification of the automotive industry in South Africa. Again, what cost us to go into that? Now, when you are going to innovate, you have to think about, but what are the trends saying? What has happened in the past? What is going to happen in the future? And how can I position my solution in between? We saw that there is a global megatrend. There are 3 global megatrends that we're solving for. The first one being decarbonization and sustainability, where in every industry, if you look at different industries, people are looking for options to decarbonize or to reduce their carbon emissions. And then secondly, electric mobility. What we have seen, we've been in this business for the last 5 years now, is the fact that electric mobility and electrification, the technology is improving from time to time. And then assets as a service, we are seeing more of a drive to a shared asset economy. So when we looked at the global megatrends, we thought, with these type of problems that the world is trying to solve, how do we build a solution that is going to solve those problems? So let me tell you about how then the story starts. And as I tell you this story, I'm going to also share the lessons that I learned along the way in building innovation and in moving things to the next point and to the next point. So 5 years ago, I leave a job which I really enjoyed as a senior deal maker at Momentum Metropolitan Holdings, which is a Johannesburg Stock Exchange listed insurance company. I'm in mergers and acquisitions. I am loving it. And you know, it looks very prestigious. You're flying all over the place. But then there was something in me that said, there is more for me out there. And I think a lot of the speakers spoke about that, the pivot, the fact that you think there's a problem that I'm feeling very strongly about solving. So how do I solve this? So I leave that job. And I start to think about what electric mobility would look like together with my partners for the logistics industry. And in doing that, the first place that we go is to knock on funders' doors and say, we would like to get money to buy our first electric vehicles to do a proof of concept with. Guess what they said? Of course, no. Of course, they said no, because funders by nature would love to take safer bets, especially for something that is new in the ecosystem. So they said no. And they didn't say no once. They didn't say no twice. They said no over 3 years, and I stopped counting at 30 no's. 30 no's of people saying this will never work for South Africa. Why? We are at the worst of a power crisis. Where are you going to get the money? The rand-dollar exchange keeps fluctuating. There was everything against the idea. But what is the important thing? You have to have staying power. What do you think I was doing in 3 years when I was trying to raise funding and I was getting no's? I was showing up every day looking like I run a 1,000-vehicle business, whereas I had zero. Not. So fast forward to today, we have done more than 7 million kilometers on South African roads. We have saved, or carbon emissions saved are sitting at more than 2 million kilograms, and we've had 100% operational uptime. Thank you. And so that I don't give you the sub story and not tell you how the testimony ends, we finally do raise funding for the first 5 vehicles that we put on the road. And as if that is not enough, those 5 vehicles, we run them for an additional 18 months without getting additional orders. You have to have staying power. Because everything will say you need to give up. Anyway, so what you see there on the right of the screen is some of the clients that we service, most of them in retail, also in logistics, etc., and many of them actually part of the Johannesburg Stock Exchange listed top 40 companies. So how did it come about? This is the part where I want to share with you what I believe is the framework that you can use to think about your innovation and to build your enterprises. What does innovation mean to you? I said this at the beginning, and so if you hear me repeating something, it's because it is quite important. What does innovation mean to you? And what is your why? Your why could be that in the organization that you work for, the market is changing. The market dynamics are changing, or there's competition, or there's new technologies. Our whys will be different, but it's important to define them. And then secondly, what is it that you are trying to achieve? What are you chasing? Are you chasing a culture shift? Are you chasing incremental innovation? Are you chasing, say, mergers and acquisitions or corporate venturing or strategic investments? What is it that you are trying to achieve? Then the third question that you need to ask yourself and answer is, what governance structures do I need in order to create an enabling environment for innovation? And what type of people do I need with me? There is power in collaboration. It's very important that when we think about ourselves in our organizations, or some of us as entrepreneurs, we think about how do we fit, and how do other skills of other people fit into what we are trying to do. So what processes, what are the enabling environments for innovation? And then fourth and finally, rigorously execute on your innovation journey. In my company right now, we have these regular seatings where with the people that we work with, we say it's an innovation session. We can share your business idea, not even one that you are bringing to this business. We do a dragon den type of style of asking them questions and answers, and not because we know it all, but we help each other to think about the process of innovation. Do you set aside such time? So here's the thing, as an accountant, this is what I know. When you're trying to innovate, sometimes it might seem like your organization does not support it, because as accountants, we run after one number. It's called the internal rate of return, IRR. And at times, innovations do not bring that IRR today, but in the future. So you might find that you are spending time on this innovation, but your boss is saying, but show me the money. And you say, no, the money is coming in 10 years' time because futurists say that this thing is the next big thing. Even with that, do not give up. I mean, just think to yourself, if Ndia pitched to different banks in South Africa 30 times, what is 1 or 2 times of rejection from your boss? It makes you a toughie. It makes you tough. But rigorously execute on your innovation journey. Part of that is developing ecosystems within your organization to allow people to innovate and give them license to innovate. I want to share briefly on this, the fact that there are various ways to innovate. There's business model epicenters. Some innovations are resource-driven. Some are offer-driven. Ours at 𝐓𝐿 was customer-driven because, as you can remember in the beginning, I said our clients were looking for options to decarbonize, so they had a need and we were solving that problem. Some innovations are finance-driven, and some of them have different epicenter. They are driven by different things. The one thing that I've learned in my journey is do not be afraid to pivot. You have to take time, build your initial value proposition, test it, measure it, learn, and repeat the loop. That is the lean startup principle. Do not be afraid to pivot. When we started the business of 𝐓𝐿ectric, it wasn't called 𝐓𝐿ectric, it was called Tax-E, with an E, as in electric taxi. In South Africa, we run 15-seater minibuses for passenger transportation, and we thought we were going to transition the taxi industry in South Africa. But at the time, this is 2019, 2018, the taxi industry was not ready. So what did we do? We pivoted and looked at fleets instead. So think about the innovation that you're currently working on, and think about what are the tweaks and turns. If it doesn't seem like this will work, what is the adjacent thing that can work? What is the other thing that we can do? And then, I've already said, if you look at that funnel, it's to the side. The first part is the ideas. This is where you sit down, you get the ideas in. If you are leading a team, you get your team members to talk about the ideas. That is the first stage, the stage gate 1. Stage gate 2 is building your initial value proposition. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to be sent to whoever needs to see it, and you get the feedback. You get to test it. Stage gate 3 is the value proposition. This is now, it is cooked. It is ready for market. In the case of 𝐓𝐿ectric, after we ran the 5 vehicles for 18 months, the first value proposition was when a major retailer in South Africa decided to take just under 50 of their vehicles electric with us. At that point, if I drank champagne, I probably would have popped it. Because this was now 3.5 years of trying to build the value proposition. So here are my lessons learned very briefly before I go and sit down. If to go far, go together. There is value in partnerships. So here's the picture. Look at that baby saying, no. That is me, 41 years ago in a place called Venda in South Africa. It is the most northern part of South Africa, and that's the house where I was born. So nobody would have said then, 1984, that this girl will end up on a stage in Lagos, Nigeria today, 42 years later, right? Thank you. But what brought this girl to become the girl in the middle is collaboration. So in my journey at university, I met these 2 guys. We did articles together at Deloitte, which is the audit firm where I did my articles. And we realized that as much as I brought the finance knowledge, having had the experience that I had, my one partner brings the marketing ability. He can sell ice to an Eskimo. And the other guy brings with him many years of business experience. Actually, one of the businesses that he had before now has more than 60 stores all over South Africa selling leather bags. So these 3 people come together. One is a marketer, one is a finance expert, and the other one knows operations and has run businesses. But in case you also didn't see, none of them are female like me, and none of them are black like me. It is time to transcend all that we think, and this picture could have included somebody who's not from South Africa, for instance, but the point that I'm trying to say is that there is importance in diversity. So I'm currently looking for a partner from Nigeria. No, but the point is fostering collaboration. is very important. That's what I learned. I learned that at times we might feel like, you know, those networking moments are just too much. I just want to run my business, or I just want to do my job. But there is power in having conversations, in taking yourself out there. I have seen, even in my corporate career, that it is not only for you to get a promotion, is not only because you work hard, it is also because you are noticed. Who is noticing you in your organization? Are you hiding because you think it's too proud to go out there? So fostering collaboration. And over the years, the little girl that you saw in the other picture, we went out, we had collaborations with the Chinese company that brings us our vehicles. We now have collaborations with our clients, and we also have collaborations with different entities currently really in the continent, in South Africa, as well as globally. The second lesson that I learned is really the lean startup method. And I talked about it initially, but I just want, and I'm not going to dwell much on this because I've spoken about it, but it is important that you do not wait for it to be perfect to send it out there. If you think you've got the initial value proposition, send it out there. The best that it can do is that you will learn. Of course, when you send it out there, if there's a need to be registering IPs and protecting what you are building, yes, do that. But the point is you can't hold it back and nobody knows it. And you think it's the best thing since sliced bread, but you actually don't have a customer for it. The third and final thing that I learned about setting myself up for innovation success is what I learned in the book Good to Great by Jim Collins. Jim Collins says in the book that no matter how dramatic the end result, good to great transformation never happened in one single swoop. In building a great company or social enterprise, it's almost like you are turning a giant flywheel. And for a long time, it seems heavy until it takes and it starts to move on its own. And that's how I've started to think about a lot of things in my life, that perhaps I am now moving this giant flywheel, but at the right time when it gains the right momentum, it will start to move on its own. So that business that started with 0 vehicles, and then it had 5 vehicles, is now sitting at a fleet of more than 200 vehicles running in South Africa. And that was the giant flywheel that we had been trying to move. Now, let me say this in closing, the real closing. They say a good speaker closes 3 times. I want you to think about something. At the end of your life, say in the next 60 years, when you are sitting in your village where you come from, in my case, it will be in Venda, and you are rocking yourself on that wooden chair, and your grandchildren and great-grandchildren surround you, what stories do you want to tell them? Do you want to tell them a story that I was born, I lived, and now I'm dying? Or do you want to say, if you look at the archives of Nigeria, or South Africa, or anywhere, wherever you might come from, I was part of building this. Do you want your children to say, to put your picture on the wall after you are gone, and every time they pass it, they say, hey, Mama, you did a good thing. I want to be remembered as somebody who was part of something meaningful. And by meaningful, I mean I want to be remembered as someone who was a creator. But not only that, I also want to be remembered as someone who allowed other people to create, because I made a conducive place for them to learn and grow. And so today I was just coming to you to encourage you to say, same old might be great. Nothing great grows in the comfort zone, but go forth and innovate. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, can you hear me now? All right. One more time, please, ladies and gentlemen. What stories would you like to be told 20 years from now about you? How would you like to be remembered? A lot of times we live life in the now, in the moment, and we're not thinking long-term legacy. Well, our speaker just reminded us that it's important for us to think 20 years, 30 years, 60 years from now. I'm sure a lot of us, I hope a lot of us will still be around 60 years from now. But how would we like to be remembered? Fostering collaboration. And I absolutely love that photograph. You sat so boldly in the middle of the two gentlemen. And I think the outfit fitted. Do we agree? Really nice outfit. And fostering collaboration, very, very strong point that our speaker brought to fore today. So look at the person next to you, because you never know. Networking, you never know who you're sitting next to. You never know where that person is going to be or where that person is now, or in another few years, the innovations they'll come up with. You've seen the story of our speaker, so just tell the person next to you that you really don't have an idea where I'm going just yet. You just never know what I'm going to be innovating in the next few years, or in the next few months or weeks. And then you talked about staying power. It's important for us to stay there, to keep going. Resilience. Our speakers today have emphasized resilience. Yes? Do we remember that? So resilience is so important. And we like to say in Nigeria and in other parts of Africa that we are a resilient people, because the odds we come up against, the conditions that we thrive in, you typically wouldn't find them in other places across the world. Is that correct? So let's translate that resilient spirit into our entrepreneurship journey. Are we going to do that today, ladies and gentlemen? Our hashtag remains the Platform Africa. Please remember to put out on the different platforms hashtag the Platform Africa. We have to trend. Let's make the Platform Africa trend. Are we going to do that? All right, thank you very much. And then you talked about rigorous execution of innovation, encouraging us to rigorously pursue the execution of the innovations that we come up and create within our organizations. Incredible presentation. Incredible. Eventually raising funding, going and knocking on doors, not giving up, sticking through, and then at some point, finally securing the funding. Once more, ladies and gentlemen, let's appreciate our speaker. Thank you very much for sharing with us. Our next speaker is Kenneth Owusu Asante Amponsa. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Kenneth Owusu Asante Amponsa is Chief Risk Officer of the United Bank for Africa, Ghana Limited. He's a visionary and results-driven banking executive with over 15 years experience and 8 years in leadership in the financial sector or the financial services sector. Proven expertise in strategic leadership, risk governance, financial performance optimization, and corporate transformation. A dynamic leader with a strong track record in ensuring risk and regulatory compliance, driving profitability, and managing stakeholder relations. He's adept at analyzing business strategies with risk policies to drive sustainable growth and resilience in the banking sector. He is married with 2 children and often writes on financial risk management, all the way from Ghana, not too far from us. Ladies and gentlemen, the Platform Africa, please join me as we welcome our next speaker, Kenneth Owusu Asante Amponsa. A round of applause, and let's welcome him the platform way until he gets to the podium. You're welcome.
Hello? Can I be heard? Good morning, and thank you all. It's really tough. I've been listening to these esteemed speakers. I'm just going to summarize them. So the work is quite easier, but the daunting aspect is how to keep all of us engaged, because, you know, after speaking and listening for about 2 hours, I just have to summarize. Can I have my presentation, please? And, okay, because when I got to Lagos, I saw so many billboards. I didn't see my face there. So for the next 30 minutes or less, this is the only screen you're going to see. So that when I leave Lagos, you know I was here some. All right, my name is Kenneth Amponsa. The CQRM means Certified in Quantitative Risk Management. My first time in Nigeria was 16 years ago, and I have a good feeling about Ikeja. When I got to town, I was told I'll be sleeping at Ikeja. I smiled, and I was happy for a reason. Whenever I come to Lagos and I sleep at Ikeja and get back to Ghana, there's always a project. As to what project is coming out, I don't know. My first time in Lagos, and I said you're going to look at the screen because all the slides have already been covered. So I'm going to tell you my story and to feed into the slides that have been shared already. So please indulge me. When I came to Lagos for the first time, 2009, Ikeja, Allen Avenue, Access Bank Training School. Are there Access warriors here? Awesome. So yesterday I was with this great guy, Daniel, and I asked him, where is Akinyele Jones? He said, it's at the other side of Allen Avenue. I said, oh, okay, that's where we lodged. Memories. But in all this, there was one lady, I wish I could see her before I go, Nneka Udezue, if I got the name correct. This woman, right after training, and even at the end of each day, when we have to get aerobics, one time she called me in this tiny voice, Kenny, come over. Why are you so aggressive when you're playing soccer? Do you want to hurt one of your guys? I said, no, it's just a game. He said, you know what? Amongst the 25 of you, because we're from different countries, Eastern, Western Africa, some of you will be leaders. Some of you will follow. Some of you will fall off. Your umbilical cords to success are not tied to each other. The only one that will survive and lead for others to follow are those who solve problems. With that in mind, we came back to Ghana. And when I got to Ghana, I pushed and I got to be in risk management. I thought, well, I had a first degree in economics, a research assistant in my national service, so, you know, risk management, I'll do well. They say, okay, no. You're going to be a credit documentation officer. So what is that? Filing. How many of us here like filing, to file? How many of us here don't like filing at all? Okay, that's what I also thought. I didn't like filing, but eventually that gave me the breakthrough. What do I mean? With filing, there's one element. You learn how to be organized. You learn how to be organized because you don't let papers overlap. So you stay organized, and when you're organized, everything just falls through. Then one day, I just lost one of my documents, credit documents. I searched all the other departments. I couldn't find it. It took me 1 week before I got that. When I got it, I told myself, there is a problem. Why should my documents be going out from my domain to other departments? So I called a friend, and this is my first take. With innovations, it doesn't have to be so big. It could be something small, provided it solves an issue. So I called Fred. Fred is in IT. I said, Fred, what can I do so I don't lose my documents again? He said, why don't you just create a database so that when someone needs it, the person gets the details from the database and not the hard file. With that in mind, we use this Microsoft Access. Normal relational database management, Microsoft Access. We created it, we spent weekends on end. When your mind is focused on something, get it done. And as Nneka said, those who lead and survive are those who solve problems. Myself and my friend Fred, we decided to solve an issue. We spent weekends on end, we got it done. Guess what happened? We thought we were doing it for ourselves, but management noticed us. So as one of the speakers said, who is noticing you? Management noticed us. So when there was stakeholder engagement in the industry to bring on board a collateral registry management system in Ghana, at that time we were still ETs. But my bank then, Access Bank, nominated myself and Fred because of what we've done to go and engage the regulators on sale. And now the collateral registry portal is up and doing. Our names there, no. Were we recognized industry-wide? No. Were we fulfilled? Yes. Another take. Not all innovations or projects well done should get you immediate recognition. Sometimes it adds value to you for another takeoff. Ikeja again, 2011. I was back here for training. I was here when I got a call from Ghana. I need to come back. Why? Access Bank was taking over Intercontinental Bank. I think most of you know the story. So what has that got to do with me? I said, we need you back. I got there, my task was straightforward, but very heavy. We need someone from Access Bank Ghana, because we are taking over, to lead the team for loan data measure. And those of us that have done integration before for banks, the most difficult aspect of system integration is loan migration. Because unlike other static data like customer details and all, with loan, there are a bit of accruals. You have to look at your GL mapping. What has that got to do with me? Go and get it done. Then there's a necessity for collaboration, as you mentioned. I got to the team, the guys from Intercontinental Bank were very old guys. Very old guys. At that time, because of the project I did with Fred on the documentation, I've gotten a promotion to be an ABO. Now from an ABO, I have to lead teams of senior managers from Intercontinental Bank. How would I survive? And some of them are people I've known in the industry that I call mentors. So you have to lead your mentor. Okay. How do you do this? And that's when people management skills then came to fore. I had to learn it the hard way. All the big guys, you don't go attacking. You learn, unlearn, and live with them. Because they were bigger than us in Ghana in terms of loan data, we were smaller. But we need to move from a bigger system to a smaller system because of the acquisition. But this is what I also did. How can I manage the team without causing any upheaval? One, because any form of disrespect to them will collapse the project. I'll call it grace, I'll call it favor, and I'll call it teamwork. We survived. 4 months down the line, I got a call from another bank. We also want to migrate our data. We are a merchant bank, we want to go commercial bank. I said, I just finished this. And there's the thing. I didn't get recognition immediately, but another bank has seen what you've done. You've solved an issue. But your recognition didn't come from your internal stakeholders. Another institution is also looking at you. So I joined another bank 2.5 years after Access Bank. The promotion now became double. And it was the same approach from a merchant bank to a commercial bank. I'm speaking this with a mindset of this. Not all of us are business owners. But insofar as you work in institutions, your little contributions count. And when you think nobody sees them, that is when they become very valuable. At the new bank, what I did was help create products. So if you go to that bank now, most of the products that are still using are products I led a team to create. It was a great team I had. I was still 3 years within the industry. But then, I've led 3 projects already. Take up projects. If you want to move internal, if you want to be moved based on the role or the job you are doing, take up projects. Don't be static. So if you take Ngozi's first presentation, she mentioned certain things. Take up projects. Don't stay aloof. Don't say it's none of my business. The business is not for my father. It is yours insofar as you are working in that institution. Sometimes the greatest ideas don't come from the business owners. They take the financial risk, they have the resources, but the minute idea coming from you is the game changer. Don't take it for granted. I stayed about 5 years, 6 years with the bank. Based on the work I've done, another bank, all my life we've been Nigerian banks. All my career has been Nigerian banks. So I joined First Bank. When I joined First Bank, awesome period. I came back to Ikeja. When I got to Ikeja, it was also one session like that. Also, when I got a call, I need to come because the industry has introduced something on ESG, sustainability, and all that. So, okay, so what's the issue? So, yes, it's a new area in risk management. We need to see how best we can incorporate. I said, okay, what is the issue? And take it up. I said, take it up how? I don't understand. I've not even heard it before. So I listened to you're talking about ESG sustainability, and that is a field that even propelled me to another stage. I had to take up courses on my own, learn things overnight, so that I can integrate ESG sustainability to the banking operations of First Bank in Ghana. Aside that, and also solving an issue, in 2020 came COVID. When COVID brought it up, then I had to lead a team. What templates can we use to monitor the loan portfolio to the extent that we know our value at risk and those industries that will crash? We thought we were doing it for Ghana, but the group office came calling. All the subsidiaries should do reports to them. Ghana did our reports, and the template we built became a template for the group. Fast forward, the regulator also brought its own directive. And because of the work that we've done, it became easier for us to also report on the same COVID issues. I'm bringing the discussions home so that we can all relate. The little task we play at work becomes critical, not the bigger ones. Innovation doesn't mean sit down, think something so big, because what you should try and achieve is to get your institution powerful. What's the definition of power? Power is work over time. Time and power are inversely related. The less time you spend on work, the more powerful you get. That's the ratio. Just watch it. Those of us that did science, it is science by its nature. Are you able to do more work at least time? If you're able to achieve that, you become powerful. If that is the case, what and what can I do to be powerful? Innovate. Bring out things that will make your work productive. Am I able to spend less time on an issue to get my institution to be powerful? If my institution is powerful, what does that make me? Do I get recognition? Yes. Am I relevant? Yes. At the right time you want to move, you move based on the value. You've added value to yourself, not because of the money. Is it rainfall? Oh, 𝐘𝐏𝐿 will be good again. So then, add value to yourself, and the money will chase the value. Value never chases money. Money chases value. Sometimes promotions are delayed but never denied. Keep innovating. Keep inventing. Keep designing templates. Keep coming out with productivity tools that make your work easier. When you do that, you're adding value to yourself. Even if it takes 5 years for you to get that recognition, the day you are recognized, the value you ascribe to yourself will move and the money will follow you. If you decide to chase the money first and keep jumping at each opportunity you have, you add no value to yourself. At a point, you peak and you crash. All because you fail to contribute your quota to the entrepreneur that made everything available to you. I said I'll speak for less than 30 minutes because they've spoken, but all what I will say is this. Even for entrepreneurs, keep creating that platform for the team. If I didn't get that opportunity, I wouldn't be speaking to these issues. Create a room for psychological safety. And I keep telling my team that I lead, make mistakes, but make sure they are not costly. If you don't make mistakes, you will never learn. I'm known to be quite pushy at work. I'm pushy because I want people to go beyond themselves. Naturally, left to human beings, we will all stay in our comfort zone. But the comfort zone, as one mentioned, are those that kills us. Let's try to move people out of their comfort zone, create an opportunity for them, and it will work. If I take the case study of my Kenyan people, M-Pesa. M-Pesa has succeeded and is still succeeding. How many of us know that story of M-Pesa? Okay. So Nick and the team just brought an idea how to get these things work. And it was just a proposal. But Safaricom R&D department made it possible. And that is the opportunity they created and the platform that they created. And now that approach has been adopted all over. Ghana, we use mobile money. And I know Nigeria is also using mobile money to an extent. Kenya is gone. How many of us know of the Gmail story? How Gmail came? How many of us use Gmail first? How many of us know how Gmail came about? Okay. One young guy from school who was recruited by Google, who is pushing the slides. I said they should look at my face, my brother. All right, so Paul thought through. You know, it was Hotmail and Yahoo. Those times, there were more of HTML approaches. So, how can I get graphics that will work not through HTML and it can take that huge capacity? So it's just like a project. Google took it up created the platform, and now almost everyone uses a Gmail account or the other. They keep innovating around it, and I'm waiting for the day that Gmail would have a recall email button. They don't have. What Gmail has now is more of a 30-second approach. Undo. I'm waiting for that day, and I know that day will come. Outlook has it. It's just one person, and I know it will happen. Maybe there's a reason why they've not done that. But once it works, Gmail will just go this way. Another example I would want to give, which I will say for last, PlayStation. How many of us like video games? How many of us play video games? Okay. How many of us know the Sony PlayStation story? I like it because the main guy is called Ken as well, like me. Okay. So, we know of Nintendo. Good. At a point, Sony wanted to merge and collaborate with Nintendo to come out with a PlayStation. Nintendo didn't see the essence of it. Why did that whole thing come about? Ken got home, saw the 5-year-old playing with the games, Nintendo. It's like, the graphics are weak. What if it's a 3D? Unfortunately for him, he was working at Sony. But he took an idea and went to tell Nintendo, can we get this thing done? He was almost fired. But guess what? As entrepreneur as Sony was, they kept him because of the value they know he will get. Based on that mindset, they thought they could merge. Nintendo didn't see the value in that. Now, how many Nintendo games are in the world? How many PlayStations are in the world? Thanks to innovation, thanks to support, thanks to platform. That's what it does to us. So my closing remarks will be this. At each point in time, let's think and think outside the box. That's key. Two, let's add value to ourselves. But at the end of it all, money will chase value and not the other way around. 3, as we innovate, we shouldn't always think innovation is big. It could be that small thing that will add value to an institution or entrepreneur. Last but not least, my name is still Ken. I'm a product of Grace Favor, and I'm a product of 𝐓𝐏𝐏𝐻𝐿 𝐸𝐴𝐷𝐿. Thank you very much.
Let's clip the applause for our speaker, all the way from Ghana, who signs out by saying, I am still Ken. Thank you very much for that. Appreciate the insights you shared, and I would highlight a few of them. I'm sure we all did take notes. I know it's pouring heavily outside here in Lagos at the moment, but I'm sure that we did take notes. Did we take notes? Have we enjoyed the sessions so far? Yes. We're going into a panel conversation where we'll be asking our speakers a few questions shortly, and we'll get to get some more wisdom from them with those questions that we'll be asking shortly. But just from our speaker, when you think nobody is seeing your work, when you think nobody is seeing your contribution, that's actually when it becomes valuable. So sometimes, as he said, we're doing things within our institutions, our organizations, and we feel nobody is watching, or no one is giving me my flowers. I'm not getting the accolades I deserve. And sometimes people relent and say, well, I'm retreating, I'm not going to do what I used to do anymore. But we've been encouraged this afternoon now, because we've crossed into the afternoon, we've been encouraged to keep going. He also reminded us to take up projects. Don't be shy to take up projects. because that's the only way we can move upwards. If we want promotions, we're arguing about promotions, well, I'm qualified, or I feel like I deserve that promotion and it was missed, or I wasn't considered. Take up projects and keep taking up projects. If you don't get that promotion this time, take up projects. You shouldn't relent. And then he says, institution, the power of institutions. Imagine what we can do when our institutions become powerful as a result of the contributions that we've made as individuals, as employees working within those institutions. So I think we can begin to commit today to say we want to make our institutions powerful again. Yes? Is that correct, ladies and gentlemen? We can begin to commit today that we want to make our institutions, our organizations powerful, great, through the contributions we'll be making. And he also talked about value. He said we can continue to improve value. Let's improve our value, the value that we offer to our organizations and institutions, and then let's also increase our personal value by developing ourselves and continuing to learn and build ourselves up. So we will be proceeding to the panel session very shortly. We'll have the chairs come up on stage and then we'll invite our speakers. But I want to remind us of a hashtag. What's our hashtag, ladies and gentlemen? I can't hear you. If you're watching online, please type in the comments, what is the hashtag? I can't hear us in the room. The Platform Africa. So please, let's continue to use the hashtag, the Platform Africa, as we go along in this event and as we proceed to the panel conversation that we'll be having with our speakers. Once again, I would like us to put our hands together for all the speakers that have shared with us so far. We have learned so much from them. Is that the measure of lessons and value that they've added? Please, let's put our hands together. Let's appreciate them for all that they have shared. And we've had different countries represented here at the Platform Africa today. We've had our speaker from South Africa, we've had our speaker from Kenya, and then we've also had our speaker from Ghana, and of course, the host country or the host nation, our speakers from Nigeria. So one more time, a round of applause for them. Okay? All right, so we'll just go on a short break to allow the ushers to bring up the chairs, and then we'll proceed into the panel conversation. So please sit tight, and we'll kick off the panel conversations shortly. Thank you very much.
Special 5 speakers. Babajide Olusola Sanwo-Olu served as the 15th governor of Lagos State since 2019. Professor 𝐓𝐿 𝐏𝐥𝐚𝐭 CFR, economics professor who serves as the 5th Democratic governor of Anambra State. Amina Gurib Fakim, scientist who served as the 6th and first female president of the Republic of Mauritius. Babatunde Raji Fashola, 𝐶ON, Nigerian lawyer who served as the Federal Minister of Works and Housing of Nigeria from 2019 to 2023. Yakubu Dogara, CFR, who served as the 13th Speaker of the House of Representatives from 2015 to 2019. The Platform, Democracy Day Special, June 12. Powered by the Covenant Nation.
Good day, everyone. Welcome to the Convened Community Groups, where meaningful connections and lives are transformed. Whether you're a business owner, a corporate professional, a student, or part of the diaspora, there is a community for you. But hey, don't just take my word for it. Let's hear from the people around the world whose lives have been impacted by the community group.
One thing I really struggled with was personal branding. I didn't even know how important branding was and even what it was in the first place. Joining, I learned a lot because we had a masterclass on it, and it has helped a lot in my business and even just my day-to-day. The community groups are really a growth accelerator, and it's somewhere that I would invite you to join. Whatever phase of life you are in or whatever category you belong to, there's a community group for you.
I'm a member of the New Managers Community Group. I want to say leading in new managers has made me a better person in terms of looking out for people. The highlight for me this semester was body pairing people who actually got married in December. So I want to encourage everyone, if you have just become a team lead, you're a new manager, please join the New Managers Community Group.
It's interesting to know that you have people who already have an answer to the questions you want to ask. So that way you are not living your life alone. You have people who can hold you by the hand. When you feel lost, there are so many people around to show you guidelines. So yes, I would say this is a cue for you if you are looking for a place to get answers, to find like minds where you can be vulnerable and not being judged, where you can share and not feel like you're oversharing. This is a place to come.
Wow, such powerful stories. Thank you for sharing. If you've been searching for your tribe or a place to grow, this is it. Register now at www.ccncommunitygroups.org and take the first step today. Don't do life alone. Join a community group today.
The Platform, Democracy Day Special, 5 speakers. Babajide Olusola Sanwo-Olu served as the 15th governor of Lagos State since 2019. Professor 𝐓𝐿 𝐏𝐥𝐚𝐭 CFR, economics professor who serves as the 5th Democratic governor of Anambra State. Amina Gurib Fakim, scientist who served as the 6th and first female president of the Republic of Mauritius. Babatunde Raji Fashola, 𝐶ON, Nigerian lawyer who served as the Federal Minister of Works and Housing of Nigeria from 2019 to 2023. Yakubu Dogara, CFR, who served as the 13th Speaker of the House of Representatives from 2015 to 2019. The Platform, Democracy Day Special, June 12. Powered by the Covenant Nation.
And we'll be inviting our speakers on stage to have a conversation with them, be asking some questions, and we'll delve deeper into a lot of their presentations and some of the things they've shared today. So it's my pleasure to welcome to the stage Mrs. Akinyele. Please, a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, as we welcome our speaker to the stage. Please keep clapping until they get to. You're welcome. Thank you. Anyway, it's fine. All right. We'd also welcome, in the same order, another speaker, Mrs. Adedoyin Adeyinka, our public speaker. Please, a round of applause for her. She makes her way to the stage. Thank you very much. And then next, we'll welcome our speaker all the way from Kenya, our wonderful, wonderful speaker from Kenya. Let's welcome Mr. Soyinka Witness. Thank you very much. Okay, so I think we had a few of our speakers excuse themselves, but they'll join us shortly. And then as soon as they join us, I will invite them to join us on stage. So I will leave those two chairs for our other speakers. Thank you so much for sharing with us so far today. I will start with Mrs. Adedoyin Adeyinka. The question I have here for you, we spoke about alignment a lot, and I was going to ask, because in institutions and organizations, there tends to be sometimes a struggle for employees and even leaders especially, to create an alignment-friendly environment. For some leaders who are listening today, whether in the audience or joining us on the other platforms, what sort of advice would you give to leaders in terms of creating an alignment-friendly environment for the employees, so that we can begin to find more alignment happening between the vision, the mission of the organizations, and the employees within the organizations?
Thank you. Okay, so I think that, as we think about alignment, it's important. As an organization, you have a vision, right? You're going somewhere, and it's important for you to get there, right? And so as you think about achieving that vision, you need to think about what will make us attract the right kind of people for where we're going, and then what will keep those people in the organization to help us achieve our vision in the future. You have to be deliberate, right? You can't do things any old how. You can't just think, oh, I have a vision and it's either you join me or you go. No. You have to remember that we are all human beings, and so you need to make people comfortable. You need to think about what will work for people that will help them want to do their best to get to where you're going, or to achieve the vision that you have set out. And I think I said at some point, don't be afraid to ask for help or assistance. As a leader or the head of a business, you need to find the people who will help you make sure that you create an environment where people can thrive. And when those people talk to you, you need to listen, right? You can't imagine that or keep thinking that you know it all. After all, something got me here. Where were you when it got me here? No. The world is changing, continuously evolving. People are adapting to different things, and you need to adapt as an organization to create an environment where people will want to stay. I don't know if that answers your question.
Thank you very much. Please, a round of applause. Thank you so much. Akinyele, quickly, on this question. You talked about the transitions during your career. You've been able to move from different organizations. And within each organization, you left an indelible mark there joining us. Some people are grappling with making certain moves within their career at the moment. How do they determine an appropriate time or the ideal time to make those moves? Sometimes when you're flying high, you're achieving a lot within an organization, it could be tempting to remain there. And we did have some of our speakers also say, well, for 25 years, staying in a certain organization for that long. And what we're seeing these days is a lot of the newer employees, if I put it that way, are quick to move and jump to the next ship. You know, if something happens, there's a crisis, there's a challenge, they quickly move. So what are some things that people need to be mindful of today in the contemporary institutions and organizations such that they're not missing the time to move and they're not moving prematurely?
You don't ask easy questions, do you? Okay, first of all, as she was responding, something came to mind, something that someone told me that, and I have adopted, you know, over the years, and this was quite a few years ago, I don't remember, but I think it was more than 5 years ago. And she told me that one of the things she does is when she has, you know, just in line with what she said, having, I think one powerful thing she said was having people who even help you drive that alignment. She, at this time, was, I think, a middle manager, and she told me that one of the things she does in her team, which was the HR team, is that she calls people and she asks them, what is it that you really want to achieve, you know, in life? What is it? I mean, it might be that you want to, you know, be a dancer, you want to be, you know, whatever. And then she said, it's fine in this organization where, you know, we're a bank, this is what we primarily do. You might just want to be, you know, a fashion designer, but you can pick up one thing or two things that you want to get out of this system. So let's say you want to be a fashion designer and you're working in a bank. Perhaps what you want to pick up from that bank is an understanding of numbers, how to manage your books. So whilst the entire bank is going towards becoming the first 1 trillion, you know, PBT declaring bank, and you want to just open doo-doo fashions, you are very clear every single day that what you come to work to do is to identify in these 2 years when you'll be here, that exact skill set. It might even be the networks you want to build, people who are going to be your customers in the future. And so every single day between you and your madam, so she even told me something like someone said she wants to be a public speaker and she would give her presentations to take and she would remind her that you want to be a public speaker, right? So at least present in NPR first now. If you have not presented in NPR in private, where are you going to present in public? So I think it also circles me back to your question. The fact is that every move should be purposeful. I've always believed that. Every move should be purposeful. My fundamental philosophy, if you really ask Ngozi Akinyele, is that 2 years is the minimum you should spend if you're an entrepreneur in an organization. And I'll tell you why. For many organizations, it takes a while to even start that engine. You know that flywheel she talked about? To be able to make an impact, it takes a while to take your ideas from, you know, idea to fruition. So if you're really a builder and in 1.5 years you're out, you really started looking 6 months ago. In reality, your mind started leaving that role. So whilst there may not be a general formula around how much time you should spend in an organization, I think that if you're a builder, there's a minimum time just based on the nature of work that you're doing, giving things time to settle, giving yourself, it's almost like how meat marinates in sauce. Give yourself time to appreciate that environment, learn from it, grow through it before, you know, you pot. But when you do pot or move, let it be purposeful.
Please, a round of applause. Thank you so much. Let it be purposeful when you eventually decide to move. So I'll go to Mr. Soyinka now. And you talked, your presentation, you titled, Africa's future won't be imported, it will be built from inside out. And you gave us a breakdown of, you know, very key, succinct points. And you talked about evolution. You talked about innovation. In different parts of Africa today, there are young employees, perhaps older employees as well, who are looking at the conditions externally. You talked about the internal, the external. How do they marry the external conditions with what's going on economically. And I like how you introduced yourself as a dreamer. You said, an entrepreneur is also a dreamer. How do employees begin to marry both, manage the external conditions, and yet still be able to dream within an organization and still be able to evolve such that the organization or innovations that are happening around them don't leave them behind?
Thanks. I think even as I respond to that question, and interestingly also from what Ngozi had mentioned, the point around you as a leader checking with your team on what they want and where they want to be. It's something that I was also trained years back when I was in management consulting. And the question was, in the next 5 years, what do you want to be, where do you want to be? Whether you want to leave this organization or not. And it was something that I practice to date in the sense that if we agree on, yes, 5 years, this is where you want to be, give me the best of your 5 years. And I will take you to that World Bank or that wherever. And I guarantee you, more often than not, people don't leave after those 5 years. People actually end up staying in those organizations. People actually leave their bosses. People don't leave organizations, right? To answer your question, external factors and internal factors are not mutually exclusive, right? One of my favorite quotes of all times is, the miracle you're looking for is in the job you're avoiding, right? There are so many things externally that affect us as a continent, so many things, right? And if we just apply the resources, the knowledge base we have, and basically our skill sets, I think there's a lot that we can overcome and build ourselves entrepreneurial or basically help any external forces that are surrounding us. I was having a conversation with David, and we were talking about the Yahoo boys, right? And we were saying, when you think of it, the Yahoo boys are actually very intelligent guys. Yes. Yeah, very intelligent guys. Imagine if we could tap into that talent and harness it internally and make something out of it. I don't think external and internal factors are mutually exclusive. That's why at the end of the presentation, there was some sort of cogwheel that shows that these depend on each other. You need to be, one, aware of the external factors that are happening, whether it's economic shocks, whether it's our politicians, whether it's whatever. But internally, you also need to remember that, yes, culture is what will also help me survive this uncertain political scenario that I'm in or whatever. What are my value systems? Yeah? Am I getting into things just because people are getting into them, and so on and so forth? Yeah, so I don't know if I've answered your question, but yeah, they are not mutually exclusive. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, a round of applause. I find your recommendation quite interesting about the Yahoo boys. That we typically would perceive as, perhaps more negative than valuable positively. And so encouraging that we start tapping into some of those talents and see how we convert or translate them to do good work.
The good side of it.
The good side, yeah. to positive. Yeah, so translate into positivity. Awesome. Thank you so much. So I'll come to Dia. You spoke about resilience, you talked about funding, but whilst you were working as an entrepreneur, you did start the business. You were starting to make some moves around, setting up 𝐓𝐏𝐿, collaborating with your partners. What would you have to say to some entrepreneurs who are listening and saying, I am so, you talked about the staying power, you talked about the ideas, the rigor. I have all of that, and I feel like I'm somewhere right now, and I'm not able to express all of that. And I don't want to leave because I'm thinking funding. I don't want to knock on as many doors as India knocked on before she finally got a breakthrough. What do I do? How do I manage this situation? I have a lot of ideas busting out. My organization might not be ready for those ideas. but I also am not ready to go and start chasing or pursuing funding. What do I do? What would your response to them be?
Thanks for that question. So my question back to that person would be, what are you doing while you wait? Are you just sitting in that job, lamenting what is not possible because it hasn't come to fruition? Or are you taking that time to build capacity in yourself to be ready for the eventuality? I'll give you an example. When I was still in a job, working for somebody else in corporate, I was taking public speaking classes. I joined Toastmasters because I knew that one day I'm going to have to pitch. I'm an accountant, not an engineer, so I must explain how the lithium reacts to make the battery. But then I thought I need to learn how to speak. Secondly, I think earlier somebody said it, that wherever you are, be deliberate about learning. But I want to add that be deliberate also about creating relationships. Because when I eventually left corporate, the first people that I phoned to say, hey, I'm now on the other side, were the people I had worked with. But it wasn't just the people that I'd worked with, it was that I didn't burn my bridges. So when they had the name India, it wasn't like, oh, not that one. People were willing to help. So I would say, in summary, build your capacity, build the relationships, but also have a plan for when you eventually leave. I started a consultancy business while I was still in corporate because I knew that I needed something to keep the lights on. I know that entrepreneurs don't look like their problems. Today, I don't look like my problems. But the truth of the matter is, ask yourself how you're going to keep the lights on as you get those 30 no's. How are you going to feed the children? How are you going to pay for school fees? And take what is in your hand and make that skill what feeds you in the meantime while you go into what you want to do.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. Don't burn bridges. I think another thing for entrepreneurs sometimes is they're in a haste. Well, I have that light bulb moment, I have that idea, I'm stepping out, and then they burn bridges. They don't manage the relationships as well. And interesting to find that the first people, your first point of contact, as soon as you left, were the people that you worked with. And so they weren't avoiding your calls. You were confident enough to call them because you didn't burn the bridges. So please tell the person next to you, don't burn bridges. Whatever is happening in your organization, don't burn bridges. Don't destroy relationships. All right, thank you so much. So let me come to Kenneth. Mr. Kenneth, you talked a lot about people management skills. And when I think about people management skills within an organization, I think about conflict resolution. I think about emotional intelligence. I think about so many other things. When people are working with quote and unquote difficult colleagues, I don't want to say difficult bosses, so people are already laughing. But when they find themselves working with quote and unquote difficult people, whether they're bosses, uplines, or they're their contemporaries, how do they continue to innovate? How do they continue to add value? You spoke about value as well. How do I continue to add value when I have, as it were, difficult people that I work with?
Yes, man, I don't know why you... I don't know whether it's a jollof kind of argument. All right, thank you. So, I'll take it this way. I think it was Soyinka who referred to Peter Drucker's quote, "Culture is strategy for breakfast." I think to answer that, we need to look at it from a culture point of view. And what kind of culture do you have as an institution that helps in terms of grievance management? Okay, so I know you mentioned people leave, you don't want to go to bosses, but really the understanding is that people leave bosses, don't leave organizations. But I would add that people actually live toxic cultures. And if you look at the crop of people we have, advisedly used, because of the generation we are in, the least toxicity, that person wants to move out. And that's reality. Sometimes it's not the boss, sometimes it's the environment. I'm in risk management, so an aspect of it deals with people risk. And realize that, I don't know whether it's a regional issue, but Japan, people are just moving. So our core staff or our core labor front as Africans or West Africans are just leaving. Once they are moving out, innovation is missing. Invention is missing. So now we are back to square one. Now, how do we get this resolved? And that's critical. Even in our current state, how are appraisals done? Is it 360 or is just one way? If those at the lower level are being appraised, whether hard skills or soft skills, is there an approach where their bosses are also appraised by them to the extent that they are able to indicate how they think their bosses should lead them? So that if there are issues which will force them to leave out, those issues will be resolved. These are things we should look at. We mostly talk about product life cycle, but we forget about people life cycle or staff life cycle. If you take an end-to-end staff from the day the staff enters up to the day they plan to exit, what is the plan? From beginning to end. If that is managed well, it will feed into culture and you'll have most of our staff staying. So that is a way I think should be guided. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I love the bit. I love how you concluded your remark by saying, let's shift from largely product life cycle focus to what? To what? People life cycle focus. Thank you so much for that. Let me come back to Mrs. Adedoyin. I have two questions wrapped in one for you. And I know that you are very, very able to answer it and do justice. Now, in your presentation, you talked about clarity with your personal journey as an employee, as an individual working within an organization. And you'd said in also a few interviews that you've had that you need that clarity as a person before you can get into an organization and actually get the organization to where it needs to get to. How do people find clarity? And you also then talked about know thyself. We're in an age where there is so much noise. We're in an age where the pressure increases, maybe not incrementally, but exponentially for a lot of people within the workplace. You bring out your phone, you go on a particular platform, and someone has just listed their achievements. And you are thinking to yourself, I think now I know why I have been at this same position for the last 5 years. And then you go back into feeling sad, feeling unworthy, not valuable. So, in the midst of all the noise, in the midst of the mounting pressure that we find around us, how do we stay true to ourselves? You have stayed true over decades. What are some of the things you did that could help those listening today? And how do they find clarity? For anyone who's listening and saying, I don't even have that clarity yet, but I'm stuck in this organization. I can't move. I can't innovate. I can't do all the things that Mr. Kenneth talked about. I can't do what Mr. 𝐲𝐿 talked about. I can't do what the other speakers spoke about. I'm stuck. What do I do? So, how do I find clarity on one hand, and then how do I remain true to myself in the midst of the noise around me?
I think Ngozi said you don't have questions, right? Okay. You know, if we sort of go back to when you leave university, I want to say that finding clarity, finding yourself is not necessarily what you think about, right? You don't come out thinking, oh, I must find myself now, I must know who I am. It's somewhere along your journey of life that you may then begin to realize that that is important. But I'd like to say for everyone that is listening today, it is important. Please realize it quickly, right? It's important because, like you said, there is a lot of noise. And if you don't take the time to say, what are the things that I like? What moves me? What makes me tick? What do I believe in? If you don't take that time to learn those things about yourself, you're going to go through life confused. You'll be tossed by every new thing that is happening, and decades down the line, you'll wonder what you did with your life. So at some point, you need to be deliberate about thinking, who am I? What do I believe in? What do I hate? I started my working life in an accounting firm, right? And one day I was having a conversation with someone. I said, this audit, I hate it too. You know, I'm not really sure I want to be an auditor. I'm not sure that I'm cut out for this accounting, but I'm a chartered accountant now. It took me a while, you know, it sort of went down all kinds of roads. And then one day someone said to me, well, what do you like? I said, I don't know what I like, but at least I know what I don't like. So even if you don't know who you are, start from, who do I know that I'm not, right? So that when they bring certain things to you, you know, this one, I'm not this way. I don't like this. And sometimes, you know, those things, it's not that they're bad, it's just that you won't find fulfillment. It doesn't do it for me. As human beings, we sort of need to, from time to time, do some introspection. Sit down and say, let me remove myself from the noise and let me think about me. What makes me tick? What are the things that I really can't stand? Let me be deliberate about life. We have to come to that decision. Some of us will get there faster than others, you know, but we should all plan to get there.
Thank you so much for that. So take time out, at least identify what is not purposeful for you, what doesn't align exactly with, you know, what makes you tick really, as far as, you know, the career journey is concerned. Thank you so much. So I'll go to Mrs. Akinyele, and one of the themes for no, Mrs. Akinyele. I'll come to you shortly. The theme, we're talking rethinking our mindset, rethinking our continent, the Platform Africa. How, and because you've done a lot of extensive work with communications, with marketing, if there's anyone in the room who's thinking, how do I create the right image for myself as an employee within the organization? How do I increase my chances of promotion? I think promotion seems to be also another thing that a lot of people yearn for as part of recognition of their contribution within a workplace. So how do I market myself as an entrepreneur who's giving great value? I think it was Mrs. Adedoyin that says, who's noticing you? Who's seeing what you're doing? How do I position myself in such a way that, again, I'm not coming off as arrogant, I'm not coming off as puffed up, but I'm showing the value, the contribution I'm making, and I'm visible enough to be acknowledged, visible enough to have the kind of growth that I project or I anticipate within an organization.
I'm just looking at this time so that I can escape from the next question. So maybe I'll say a couple of things about this. The first of them will be going back to the point around clarity. I think many people walk through organizations and don't even know what it takes to excel in those organizations. It's shocking. People are, in a role in an organization, and if they ask you, what is it going to take for you to be promoted next year? No clarity. Never had that conversation with their supervisor. Maybe their supervisor has never even had that conversation with their supervisor, and it's just a convoluted area, that they find themselves in. You will never find in an environment like that. I always seek to have clarity, to understand, okay, this is the track. At least on paper, this is what is required of me. And when I have my discussion with you in 2023, at the end of that cycle, I come to an understanding that as of the end of 2024, God sparing our lives, if I do ABC, you will grant me X, Y, Z. I think that is first of all fundamental. The second thing beyond clarity is that you first have to be doing great work at what you are called to do, at what you're employed to do. I find another sort of conundrum where people want to be driving innovation, but they've not balanced their own books. The books that they employed them to balance, they've not balanced it, but yet they want to solve the problem of trapping carbon emissions in. You have no credibility because innovation is over and above what is on your job description. So first of all, build credibility by doing the work you were, called to do, or work that you employed to do, and do extra. That extra that you are required to do is what everyone has talked about here today. The projects, the innovation challenges to drive visibility. And then the final thing you said about visibility, I think you can't talk about visibility today without authenticity. You see this whole aspire to, require to, determined to, I'm thrilled to, I'm enthused to every day there's something to be enthused about on LinkedIn. How is it really that there's something to be enthused about every single day? Is it really possible? Are you not working? So that hollowness in people just looking for things to create and to announce. Me, I know it takes me time to achieve things, so I can't be shouting on LinkedIn every day. I love LinkedIn. It's a platform that people perhaps more. You have to be meaningful. You erode your credibility when you're just chasing visibility that has no substance. So I think it's important that we... Okay, enough said.
Thank you so much. Authenticity. I would say more than that. Catch yourself. I would say more than that. But thank you so much for that. Let me quickly move because I know our time is running out. Let me move to Mr. Shoyinka. And Mr. Shoyinka, I wanted to ask you, you talked a lot about markets, innovation, culture, strategy. A lot of entrepreneurs sometimes just think, oh, I want to work in this organization. I'm in Accra or I'm in Lagos or whatever city across Africa. We're rethinking the continent. How do I leverage opportunities outside my locale, my immediate community? Because this is the Platform Africa and Entrepreneurship Summit. I'm sure there are people who are listening and saying, I want to work with an organization in Kampala. I want to work with an organization in Kenya. Perhaps maybe I'll follow Mr. Shoyinka back to Kenya and start working there. How do entrepreneurs start taking advantage or positioning to take advantage with opportunities that exist outside their locale?
Yeah, thanks for that. One, I think opportunities across this continent are limitless. There's a lot of opportunity across different markets, across different economic blocks, and things like that. But essentially, just to answer that question, I think it goes back to what everyone has said. One, there's the element around, and even just going back to the question around promotions and all that, I think one of the mistakes that we make as entrepreneurs and people, even me being a person who's been there, is we think that promotions in work should be based on time spent in that office, as opposed to, are you playing the next level for you to get to that level, right? So, like I say, the opportunities are limitless, and if we just open our eyes, if we just, one of the benefits of LinkedIn is if you tap into this resource that you have. A few years ago, we didn't have all this, right? We had to, I don't know, you had to look for jobs in newspapers and all that and whatever. And right now, just looking across, you will find that there's an entity in Lagos that has offices in Nairobi and wherever, right? So there's quite a lot to be tapped into. It's just a question of what resources do you have at your disposal. Yeah, so that is number one. Just utilize them and make the best out of them. I like what Ndia said, connection and collaboration. There are so many people here in this forum right here who know quite a number of people who, what is it called? 6 degrees of separation and all that. I know someone who knows a Yahoo boy. Yeah? So there are quite a number of connections here that we need to utilize. Yeah? And more importantly, be invested and want to learn about this region. Yeah? Just deliberately take an action to learn about what is Kenya, Nairobi, what is South Africa, what is... We tend to blame a lot of the non-Africans when they think Africa is a country. But the more I travel across Africa, I realize that many of us also think that. Yeah? Let's be deliberate around, let's just get to know each other. I think, yeah, that would be it for me. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. So I'd come to India, and then I know Mr. Kenneth didn't want me to ask him a final question, but I would ask him one. But yeah, India, you talked about relationships, you talked about collaboration, you talked about partnerships. What role do you think educational institutions can begin to play with organizations today and as we look into the future to build more entrepreneurs? We've talked about the mindset. We've talked about all the very interesting things that a lot of us in the room and watching online need to take cognizance of. But how can we strike some partnerships or collaborations between educational institutions and corporate organizations or institutions such that we have more entrepreneurs and, of course, by extension, more entrepreneurs in the future who are thinking problems, who are thinking solutions, who are allowing those problems gravitate to them and not saying, problem, no, they finish, as we say in Nigeria, but they're saying we'll take the problems head on and we'll find solutions and we'll get better, not just as an institution, but of course, as a continent.
One of the things that I'm very deliberate about now that I run a business is to be very involved in the educational sector. Meaning being a visiting professor, coming to share the real stories about what we're doing outside. And the reason for that is because if you read the Future of Jobs report that comes out every year, they tell you which jobs will be obsolete. And they're not talking about 2050 now. They're talking about 2030, 2035. And the other thing that I'm experiencing when I'm looking for human resources in the business is that I'm not finding them. I'm not finding people trained in AI and, battery technology and things like that. So if as a private sector player, I don't go to educational institutions and talk about what it is that we do, we are going to train people that come out to jobs that are obsolete. So we have to be very deliberate. And then for those who are out of school, sitting in this room in a job, I cannot stress more the value of continuous education. They say machines will take our jobs, but the human element will always be needed, but it will be progressive humans that will be needed. So the value of education cannot stop, and the more you build your capacity, the more the world opens up to give you opportunity.
Awesome. Thank you. Progressive humans. I hope we'll have many more progressive humans after the event today. All right, I trust that. Thank you so much for that answer. Mr. Kenneth, I'm back. Final question. You've worked extensively in the financial space, in the financial services industry. What role do you think that sector, as critical, as pivotal as it is, has to play in the future of Africa and of the different countries? Of course, some of them represented at the Platform Africa. But when we think entrepreneurship, what roles do financial services, companies, operators, institutions have to play? Because of course, you will find that there's some entrepreneurs, just like India, who then transitioned into entrepreneurship. What's the role that you think, in your perspective, or from your perspective, financial services institutions can begin to play in helping us get more people into business and sustainable businesses, whether they're working in companies or they have moved completely into full-time entrepreneurship?
All right, thank you. Okay. I don't know where you get your questions from, but I'll manage this one. All right, so I'll also take it from India's perspective to see the collaboration from an educational point of view, and how partnerships and how banks or financial institutions can even tap the young graduates or students about to graduate, because mostly it's a tabula rasa. They are fresh from school. What you take them through is what they carry along. And that's why I appreciate the likes of Access and UBA, that UBA especially is heavy on the graduate training program and it's Africa. So we take and we nurture, and there's a roadmap for them. What it means is that you are giving them room to innovate. Then there are clusters and there are projects assigned to them so that it gets them thinking. And some of these thoughts our thought processes are even outside the banking space, because now we are speaking about financial inclusion. If it's financial inclusion, then it's not the simple deposit taking, giving out loans. How do we get the unbanked banked? So all these are things that financial institutions mostly open up or create opportunities for young graduates or for youngsters to come on board. Another area that we also would do is also sieve the noise. To sieve the noise. And to sieve the noise, just like Madam mentioned earlier on, the noise is still there. It has to go with coaching, hand-holding. When you get them, what culture do they embrace? And how do we carry them along? Because I always say, Desiderata, go placidly amidst the haste. Calm down. Once you are calm, it gets you thinking. And once you think, you innovate. When there's noise, it's just like you can't swim against the tide. You stay calm. Once it comes, you know how to navigate. So that is how we can collaborate and guide the young ones who are also coming to the fold of financial institutions, so that together we can create, recreate, co-create, and so on. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So as we wrap up now, I want to really thank our speakers for responding to the questions. I'm going to do a very, very quick fire questions at all our speakers. So I'm giving 3 options just to make it a bit lighter. We've talked about the more serious things, and as we wrap up, let's just get to know our speakers a bit more. So 3 options: favorite place, favorite food, or strongest value or principle. You could pick one of the three and let us know. Favorite place, favorite food, strongest value or principle that you live by. And this time I will start from Mr. Kenneth because I imagine he wasn't expecting it. But yes, you have to forgive me, Mr. Kenneth. So either favorite food or favorite place or strongest value or principle that you live by.
Well, let me keep it simple so I can move away to that. I'll take favorite food. Why? Why do you want me to go with philosophy? No, food. My favorite food, interestingly.
Jollof.
It's not jollof. It's not jollof. It's a Nigerian dish, actually. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it well. Exactly. I like that. And whether I take it with eba or any carbohydrate, I like it. It's so rich in the vegetables and so green. Okay, so that's my favorite actually. 𝐓𝐏𝐿.
Awesome. Thank you very much, India.
I'll take favorite place. It's a place called Diani outside of Mombasa in Kenya.
Okay.
But soon it will be Nigeria, I promise. And my favorite fruit is jollof. The Nigerian one.
All right. Thank you so much, India. Mr. Sharika.
I think I'll do favorite place. Well, it's a very close tie. So there is Zanzibar, which is quite beautiful, and my heart is at peace there. There is my home, because it's my home, yeah, and I have to say it in case someone is watching. And genuinely, Lagos is one of my favorite places ever. Yeah, genuinely, I'm impressed more. I'm in billboards in Lagos. Yeah. So yeah, I'd go favorite place.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'll avoid the food question.
Thank you, Mrs. Akinyele.
It will be my favorite place.
Okay.
And it will be wherever family is. Because family, and it does three things for me actually, because wherever family is, we will cook, we will not be hungry, so we'll find our favorite food there. And family is also a value for me. So yes, wherever family is.
Lovely. And of course, Mrs. Adeyinka.
So I'm going to depart from everybody and be boring and talk about my favorite principle in life. Favorite thing, or the thing that is most important for me, is integrity. And it covers everything, right? Because integrity is when you're true. You're true to yourself, you're true to your environment, you're true to the people around you. You're true. And you find harmony, right? And that harmony helps you go through life peaceful, right? And so, sorry, I'm not picking food or favorite place. But then I'm going to talk about my favorite place. My favorite place is Seychelles. And it's my favorite place because that's where I went for my honeymoon, and it brings back so many good memories.
Ladies and gentlemen, Platform Africa, a round of applause for our wonderful speakers. We just took a picture. Please yeah, you can drop them on the chairs. Please keep the applause going for our speakers. Keep the applause going if they've added value to you. Immense value today. Please keep the applause going. Awesome. I'd like to thank our speakers. Thank you so much for your time with us today, and thank you for sharing. I'm going to be inviting our hosts forward to just share closing remarks, but it's been my pleasure moderating this afternoon. My name is 𝐓𝐿 𝐴𝐻𝐿, and I will be introducing Mrs. Adora Joshua and Mr. Ayodeji Adu, who are hosts for a closing remark. Thank you very much. Please welcome them as they join us on stage.
I named I name dropped you.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you. Yeah, that's
My name is Ayodeji Adu, and I'm an entrepreneur.
I'm Adora Joshua. I'm an entrepreneur, now an entrepreneur. We're very happy to have hosted you today at the Platform Africa. I trust you had an amazing
we need to talk.
experience today.
This is the Covenant Nation, Victoria Island, and we are a vibrant Christian community of entrepreneurs, students, and family. And we will please like you to join us for service every Sunday here at the Lagoon at 9 a.m. I hope we got this small card. If you didn't get it when you came in, just see any of the ushers on your way out.
Happy Workers' Day.
Happy Workers' Day.
Everyone.
Thank you.